Welcome to the NLC. You've heard the talk, watched the scrims and seen the tweets. Streamers, LEC players, MSI champions.
Dropping the ultimate onto Yanko.
But all that matters is what you do on the Rift.
And Kurt is going to be killed by some random bloke from Hungary. MSI champion, welcome to the NLC.
There's only one league like this, so what more do you need to know? Brought to you by Arozzi, the NLC is hitting your screen right now.
Week 5, Day 2, upper bracket playoffs run of Arozzi League of Legends Championship Winter Split. It's going down today. We have 2 best out of 3s on the same day. And by the end of it, we will have our upper bracket finalists. This is exciting. I know, so far these teams have been popping. It's always Group A. By some reason, we need to talk about that. But to talk about it, let's introduce the desk for today. We have the talented Trouble and Jamada on the same desk. How are you doing?
You see how he put talented in front of my face instead of my name, not yours?
No, it's like the talented group of
Yeah,
individuals.
you're trying to. Sure, okay.
All right.
Mada,
See what kind of
any
days.
words for that? Yeah.
No words. No words. I see what's gonna happen.
Hi everyone.
Welcome everybody, how you doing? Okay, with that in mind, for those of you back at home who have no idea what's about to happen, I know you know, but are you aware of all the games for today? Because it's 2 best out of 3s, not only 1, but 2 of them. So let's introduce the bracket and to understand how we got here so far. So, Group A has been dominating the top of the bracket, the upper bracket. On the lower bracket, it's mostly Group B fighting for their lives. We had some interesting moments with Lightside, for instance, removing the MG, Chaos winning previous champions, Venom Crest as well. Even yesterday versus Rich Gang, they showed some fire, but it was not enough. So far, any big surprises for both of you?
Ooh. For me, it would have to be Chaos. I feel like they gave Rich Gang a run for their money. We thought that Rich Gang was going to be on a redemption arc after getting 0-2'd by Verdant. They're on the arc, okay? They're on the redemption arc. However, they haven't finished it yet. Chaos, huge props, huge thumbs up to them. I cannot wait to see them when they come back in spring.
Yeah. Rich Gang series did not inspire a lot of confidence out of Rich Gang, so I'm still a little bit moderately worried about their next matchup, depending on whether it's going to be Verdant or Nord. I beg your pardon. But otherwise, yeah, most of the bracket has gone about as we'd expect, right? I think the only big thing that remains a bit of a blip is just Ruddysack, right? Being in that lower bracket.
Yes, and whoever loses from today will have to meet either Ruddy or Rich Gang on the lower bracket. And talking about today, let's introduce the games for today. There you go. We're going to start with Los Ratones versus Bulldogs, and on the other side at 21 Central European Time, Nord versus Verdant. But keep in mind, if by any means the series, the first one, ends before the time that is announced for the second series, we'll move the series a little bit earlier so we don't waste anybody's time, even the players, everybody will just have a wonderful show. Don't worry about this. Any big expectations for today before we start talking about like pre-game analysis and all that? Any big expectations?
The good teams will win and the bad teams will lose.
Oh, okay. The Prophet has
Amazing.
spoken. Now, I've been watching Cadre a little bit, and I know that Los Ratones are not running on every single cylinder. And Bulldog actually came into the first best off as underdogs and took that one. So I'm wondering if there is a chance of even an upset on the first best off.
Okay, Jamada?
I don't know. I would love to see it. I just my big concern, as again, not to get too far into analysis, is that
I want to talk about this.
They're just too good of a team. Like outside of laning phase, I'm gonna really struggle to see any team I think match them for a little while until we get really deep into the run. But we'll see. Bulldog did some pretty cool things when it came to that Ruddy series to get them here in the first place.
So look at this, look at this. I saw a comment saying, I wondered if Ashram will glaze Los Ratones harder than the seeding stage. There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
There's a
Prediction says
reasoning behind
otherwise.
this as well. There's a reasoning. You'll get to know this later on. It's a surprise, and you'll understand why I made this
So
prediction.
your prediction was bought. Your prediction was bought.
Not really.
Ooh.
I'm just a wild individual. You know that. You know that. Who's gonna be playing? Well, today we have no subs! Baus, Belgian Nemesis, Crowny, and Reckless will be playing on Los Ratones. On the other side, Miatek, Lulas, Cayman, Exafane, and Kasing, the grandfather of League of Legends. Not even the NLC. The entire League of Legends. We've seen these names before, and Bulldogs have stepped up immensely until now. So I'm actually excited about this one. I expect a few surprises. Are you okay? I did! He's a grandfather.
Kasing has been playing in the UK scene now, like, you know, and then obviously up to LEC and then back, rolling on like 10 years or something really ridiculous. He's been around for a long time, man. We can call him the, if not the grandfather, let's call him the godfather for the time being.
You know what? Godfather sounds better, Giovanna. Thank you for that.
I like it. He plays Lulu. Can you call him? I don't know. Well, with that in mind, are you aware of how both teams got here so far? I know you don't, so that's why we prepared a little piece of content just for you back at home. So stay a while and listen. Playoffs keep providing us with surprises. But all of those seem small when you consider what the Bulldogs are capable of. Winning 2-1 for the Ruddy sack. Ruddy, one of the teams everybody said would be top 2 minimum.
And here comes Bulldog to put Ruddy in their place.
Bulldog Esports have been, to say the least, unpredictable. They started the seeding stage 1 and 3. But as soon as they entered the tiebreakers, they just transformed.
The leader with the Kingslayer will get another kill. Yankos is incredibly low.
They've got the dog in them. But let's not forget the past, shall we? How did they start the seeding stage? Against Los Ratones.
But the turnaround's pretty good. Exafang just gets caught out, deleted! And of course, there's the Galio from the heavens to turn it all around.
A match that was over in 28 minutes. Velja dominated the jungle and controlled the pace of the game. Baus did Baus things. And Reckless got 20 assists in a game where his team got 22 kills. Impressive, right? But not only that, Los Ratones don't lose. No matter what the enemy throws at them, they just adapt. Their macro has been terrifying, letting the enemy think they're in control only to take over the match in a single play.
Who is the real king of the game? Los Ratones 4-0. Early game, be damned.
We all know their coach is probably losing years of his life due to the way they play.
All good.
Okay.
Oh, failure!
But results are results. They are rats. They have fun and they have total domination. So how can you win? Is the secret ignoring Baus? Trying to destroy Nemesis? Not letting Reckless control the map? Or is Crowley's godlike positioning the key? Can you even stop Velge in the jungle? Nobody knows. So how can the Bulldogs win? The experience is there, yeah. But maybe the scars from the past hold clues that no one else sees. Everybody loves to cheer for the underdog.
A team who are so favoured after Los Ratones to be the second best team in the league. Fall to Bulldog. It is an absolutely amazing underdog story from these guys.
And in this case, it's a Bulldog. Fight on. There's two animals in the rift today, the rats and the Bulldog. So who wins today? That is a big question for both of you to begin this one. I would like to start talking slowly of Bulldog Esports. Slowly.
How slowly do you want us to speak?
Just like that.
Okay, I'm not gonna speak like that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, that's good.
I think I'm gonna get confused. I feel like the one thing that pretty much splits apart Bulldog Esports from anyone else is how fast they can get their ish together. I think a lot of their early games have been sort of hit or miss, but their team fighting, somehow, their team fighting is stellar. And I always want to put my finger onto Kasing when it comes to team fights, because when he gets his hands on things like the Nautilus, the Leona, the Rakan, he'll find the angles, he'll find the engages, and he leads the team forward when it comes to starting a team fight. We've had many questions, especially into lane swaps, and this is my only question mark going into the series, because I want to keep my eye on. Have they figured out how to get through when the lane swaps? Because one or two times that it happened to them, they got a bit dizzy.
I
Yeah,
agree with that 100%. And I'm happy you brought it up. Jamato, before you continue, I'm glad you brought it up because we had a little conversation with someone from Bulldogs to understand what can we expect from this matchup and how can we actually fight Los Ratones. And that's why we're going to toss it to Lulas, who's waiting for this. Lulas from Bulldogs, welcome to the interview. I know you don't have a dog on your lap currently, so can we start with that? Are you betraying the team?
Look, I was told it was going to be one-on-one, but I decided to. I mean, this guy he's an intruder. Look, he just wants to be in.
What's the name? What's the name? What's the name?
His name is Julio.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. So, okay, welcome Lulas and Julio into the interview. Well, it's versus Los Ratones, and everybody's like, it's gonna be versus Los Ratones. How do you expect this game to go? I don't want score yet. I just want to understand your feeling towards the cities.
Right. So, I mean, we've been doing our prep. We've been sneaking here and there at some streams, perhaps. So I think we've got good info, unless they're just throwing us off for a whole week or something. But I think if we're being genuine with ourselves, we need to step up our game, especially. Last time we played against them, like they completely fooled us around the map and so on, and I think that's their strength. So we've been trying like tirelessly to improve on that. So I think we stepped up a lot, and if we show up on the day, then great. I've had a pretty good morning so far, so let's see how the rest of the day goes.
I like the way you put it.
That's fine.
The macro, because Los Ratones are concerning when it comes to macro, the way they can fool you around with the Baus gameplay and all that. Do you have a strategy to deal with Baus?
We do have our way to approach it, and I think it's the correct way. I mean, it's not like it's not studied how Baus plays, right? We've got a few infos on how to approach it. Let's see if it works. So far, obviously, he's one of the few people that plays like that, so it's really hard to get practice into it. When you have the good like a proper read and you expect it ahead of time, I think it's not that hard to play against it. So let's see how we perform in the officials at least.
I like it. I'm enjoying this. Your team was at the mouth of everybody because you won versus the Ruddy Sack. You got that game. Everybody was like, what happened? What happened? What changed through seeding stage until playoffs and the way you're performing in the playoffs? Did the team finally click?
I think it's a bit of just like time for adjustment. It's not like we had a lot of practice before the split started, so we definitely needed that time. We also needed a bit of like a wake-up call, just so like people would step up, and we actually got a lot of our main issues just revealed in officials, even through just stress. Like we have some rookies, people have really high expectations. As people, I mean like us, we have really high hopes for the team. So when that kicks in an official, it's much harder to perform then. So I think we just needed to get through all of that. I think now like that's all past us, and as long as we keep like try-harding, which we've been in scrims, if we can show up to the officials the same way, I think we're happy. Like regardless of the result, we just really want to put up a fight regardless the opponent is. Rudy might have been a surprise for many, not for us, like at all. I think our group was much harder. Rudy, although they have like some big veteran names, I don't think they had like the practice together, if that makes sense. Like they weren't gelling together super well. So even Verdant, I would have said it's a harder opponent than Rudy. That's my hot take.
I like it. I like where this is going because I can actually see the confidence in your eyes moving into this matchup. So I only have two more questions. One, it's an easy one. The other one is up to you. Versus your enemy jungler, Velja, I think he's one of the best junglers to ever play professionally. How can you be better than him today? Give me that one point where you look into him and you're like, nah, I know he's good, but I'm better on this.
Right. He's definitely good, but I think he does get lost a bit sometimes on the map, especially from what I've seen. He doesn't connect super well with the team sometimes. They just make plays without him. So I think if we're confident and we know a play can work, if we can just have the man advantage, or if he's just a bit behind, like lagging behind, and we are not, because we've been practicing that, then we just auto win. At least that
Awesome.
fight. Maybe not the rest
Awesome.
of the map, you know.
The perspective is there now. Can you pull it off? That's different.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, we'll see.
Final
Might
question
get
for
too
you,
low.
Lulas. I haven't made predictions yet, so I'll put on my predictions what you believe the score at the end of the day will be. I don't care what you say. I will put it in. I promise. What do you think it's the score at the end of the day?
I have to go with 2-1 for us, for Bulldogs, obviously. I think they will surprise us like one game, especially with like some random pick that Baus picks that no one else practices, and somehow he will get ahead and just do Baus things. But aside that one game, I think we can take the other two.
2-1. Hey. Okay, I'm putting it in. I'm locking it in that answer,
Oh my
and
God.
let's see if I'm a millionaire. Let me see. Hey, thank you so much for this one, Lulas. Best of luck within the Rift, and I'll see you soon. Have a lovely one.
Right? See you later.
I kept my promise. The 2-1 for Bulldog. That's my prediction. But the way he talked about it, the way he looked into the enemy jungler, like, hey, Velja gets lost in the map a lot of times. We've been practice on how to capitalize on that. That's big.
Yeah, it does make me wonder what the practice would be to do just that, right? I think kind of leaning off the last point we were making before we went into that interview, I think it can come from Bulldog's very strong ability to identify when they can snap engage on targets when they're kind of rotating around the map and setting up for objectives. They've had a very keen eye on that kind of thing, so perhaps that's what they're going to look to abuse, right? Kind of look a lot more aggressive in terms of trying to start up skirmishes, or just look for picks in isolation a lot more. Otherwise, it's very interesting to hear Lulas really break down his opponent there, because I also agree. I think it's one of the few criticisms you can have about Los Ratones. It is sometimes that Velia does get a bit lost in the sauce. He does occasionally kind of fall out tempo with his team. It is certainly an area of exploitation that perhaps Bulldog can look to exploit.
I'm actually muted. Okay, I'll go again. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm just happy to hear that they're just not going to repeatedly gank for Baus. So many teams have tried it. So many teams have failed. It gives you nothing. Baus gets to the point where he wants to. And I feel like, if anything, the person with the least experience on the Los Ratones roster is going to be Velia. So heat the quote-unquote, I guess, weaker link rather than the other ones. And I feel like a lot of the times, if you break the jungle, then you break jungle support synergy, then slowly but surely you can start creeping into the game. And I feel like Lulas has had a pretty good eye on invades, on taking advantage of those. Kasing is roaming so incredibly much as well in the last few best-ofs that we've watched. So I feel like this is a pretty good approach, not only to just break Velia, but to actually start creating a crack into Los Ratones, because we haven't really seen one.
I like the way we're building this up, because now you're making a storyline about what could happen. Jamal, I want your opinion on this as well, because if you break down the jungle and the way that Reckless has been taking control of the map with all his roaming, knowing that Kasing is also extremely experienced at doing that, we might have a really interesting matchup of how the jungle and the support can act in this game and probably break all the lanes.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a possibility. I would say a lot of that potential kind of comes from the mid lane then, right? Like,
okay,
you think about how most junglers get to operate. It's, do I have mid prio, right? It is such a big criteria of, do I get to attack a side lane so many times, unless that side lane state is so horrible you can just kind of walk in. So I do look towards, Nemesis and how well he will be able to lane throughout this series to kind of bring a little bit of early game protection to Velia. I think overall Los Ratones' only weak, kind of point of their game right now is their weak game, is their early games rather. They've not been as dominant as they have been in a lot of their mid to late games. They've come out of plenty of deficits so far in the split. So I need to see perhaps some stronger laning out of Nemesis. Otherwise, well, not stronger laning out of Nemesis as if Nemesis has been laning poorly. More of consistent laning out of Nemesis like we kind of expect, so that it's a little bit harder for Bulldog to potentially abuse this, jungle support synergy in the early game that I would expect Bulldog are looking to abuse.
I feel like with the Bulldog, their one weak side is also their early game. Especially, I want to chime in again on the lane swaps. I feel like they completely got lost in 2 games that they got lane swapped on. And if anything, Los Ratones are so good macro-wise that they can definitely take advantage of the weak lane swap phase of Bulldog Esports and actually create a situation through there where Baus gets out unscathed, where you have Crowny scaling for free on the other side versus a tank or whatever the other top laner is, and sort of pretty much pull them around the map. This is a thing that I want to see if Bulldog have actually implemented into their routine and into their scrims and have actually bettered coming into this best of.
I like it because I think it was the second time they got the lane swap. It was terrible. They couldn't understand anything they were doing. They got the game at the end of it. They were able to come back, but still, it was a horrible early game. And they talked about that experience and how they have been investing in practicing on that and talking about the practice of how we can actually force these team fights, knowingly that we can take advantage of Velges being late a few seconds to an objective or something like that. That could be big in favor of Bulldogs. Obviously, we're trying to build up this story, as we know Los Ratones are the team that so far haven't lost a single game. So obviously they have the upper hand on this one, but Bulldogs also have a lot of knowledge and a lot of videos to study Los Ratones. Will this actually come fruitful? You were talking about the mid lane, Jamada, so might as well look into the mid lane from Bulldogs and understand a little bit, because yeah, Nemesis is a beast, but on the other side, Cayman is also a big boy.
Yeah, Cayman had a fantastic series against Radisak. Arguably the single most important player in that series. Especially if most people will be thinking about the Ari performance in particular, where he just completely took over the game. I think he dropped like 13 or 14 kills that game on an Ari. It was absolutely incredible. His team fighting was fantastic, and that is just wholly reflected in the stats that he managed to pull through with. And I think for Cayman, if he can continue to keep up this form, his team fighting looks good, and he's as in sync as the rest of this Bulldog lineup was against Ruddy, there's an opportunity to at the very least, bring a lot of immediate upsets in some of these skirmishes where perhaps usually you would expect this Los Ratones side to pull ahead. It might not necessarily always be the case here because of how smart Bulldog have been in these fights.
And I feel like it makes a great matchup into Nemesis. Earlier on, actually, Cadel was watching a few clips from back then, and you'd see Nemesis playing Wukong mid lane with Blade of the Ruined King and stuff like this. And for Cayman, he's playing a lot of control mages, but he's got Sylas, he's got Yone. He's not afraid to play the more aggressive mid laners, if you will. Earlier on, Nemesis was also playing Swain, and he has been a permaban, at least in our previous series that we just watched yesterday. So it's going to make a very cool matchup in the mid lane to see all those weird champions sort of coming back in. And especially, okay, it's a best of 3, so Fearless doesn't get as crazy as a best of 5, but at least we'll get a glimpse of what could come up.
Jamada, you were about to... No? Okay, so with that in mind, the idea of you can't go as deep as when you can on the best of 5. So far, we've been having like 2 weeks non-stop of elimination. We've been saying goodbye to a lot of teams. So we're now used to that best out of 5, which is extremely taxing on champion pools and on players' mentality. On the best of 3, I think things are a little bit more doable and manageable. But with that in mind, is there any champions outside of the mid lane where we might take a peek into and we're like, hey, this is top priority? Because yesterday Kalista was open the entire series. No one was even... Wait, Kalista is good? Nah, we don't care about that. So I don't think that's going to happen here, because when you get it to look into those scrims from Los Ratones, they've been screaming non-stop. Like, you have this Karma permaban, you have the Wukong priority non-stop. In the bot lane, support-wise, that's where I want to focus, because Reckless versus Kasing, in my opinion, should be a big one. Not only controlling the lane, but also controlling the rest of the map. But champion-wise, are they the same?
I would say it's a very interesting matchup in terms of the fact that both can play mages, both can play engaged champions. Like, we can even resort to seeing a matchup such as Janna versus Lulu or Milio versus Janna.
That was gonna be my point. we've got two Janna
in your
players in the
head.
bottom side. Like, we've very explicitly got two Janna players in the support role in this series. I wonder if maybe we get some like cover call outs to both of them. But yeah, it's very
Hold
true,
dibs.
right?
Hold dibs on the Janna.
If we've already seen Los Ratones, if they saw a Janna angle, they took it. I expect, the same level of freedom to be applied to Bulldog and how they draft, right? Just because of how experienced Kasing is. If Kasing feels like he's got an angle for a weird support pick, he'll probably pick it. So unlocking the bot lane is definitely going to be a very important thing, just because of the way the whole dynamic of both these teams work, right? We know how important both the junglers are to both these teams. That then by default means that, hey, jungle support, that is always the duo that you talk about. But strictly through jungle, sometimes if you can't sync up with your bot lane, the most important thing then becomes the mid lane. So I think what's awesome about this matchup is we have such a hotly contested 1-1 kind of across the board, that it's very easy to kind of dive into any particular role. But I do agree, I'm kind of weirdly excited for the support matchup the most, right? Out of all of these matchups, simply because of how weird the support champion pool could potentially get. It is a bit of a shame that we're only in best of threes, just because I think in a best of 5, both these players would probably start pulling out some really wacky stuff.
I was thinking about the Janna Lulu, like, how long has it been since you've seen something of that sort? But we've talked about mostly the entire map. What about, we have to do it. Top lane.
You're gonna go top lane. Okay,
We have to go there.
A true top to bot, huh? Yeah.
It's Baus exists, and on the previous match, I think it was a
and
previous.
just leave him alone. Just let him exist.
There you
leave
go.
him alone.
I agree. I agree with Trouble. I think if you don't have a strategy to deal with the Baus's very unique playstyle, just do your best to play around it, as opposed to trying to actively intervene, right? That'll always be the biggest thing that costs a lot of teams tempo, gold, objectives. Los Ratones are accustomed to understanding when they can kind of get away with murder because of what Baus is doing in the top side, assuming we're in standard lanes, right? If there's no lane swapping, that'll always be the big question going into each of these games is usually that lane swap will kill any potential for Baus to do all of these silly things that he typically loves to get away with. So yeah, that will be kind of my eye of, are we going to be dealing with lane swaps very frequently, or is it just going to be standard lanes? If it's standard lanes, then yeah, the Baus maybe gets a little bit more freedom than perhaps he would otherwise, and then it's all about how Bulldog try to respond to those kind of plays.
I actually wanted to add on to this because I feel like even though Baus is the only player out of the entire roster that came in without any competitive experience behind him, I feel like he has ingrained so much of other people's knowledge and experience, and I feel like he could currently be the best player on the Los Ratones roster, simply due to the fact that he knows how to pressure, when to TP, which lane to be in. I feel like in general, his macro has been stellar. His deaths, even though we name it like good death, they have been generally good deaths. Like, he will milk the timer where people are chasing him. He'll bring 2-3 members of the enemy team and he'll milk it as much as possible so that his team can get something on the other side. And at the end of the day, when you're playing things like Sion, Zac, Malphite, tanky bits over in the tops of the map, you'll end up reaching that breakpoint where you become a rock in the front line and it will not matter. Hell, he'll even bring out a Jax full AP, build that Zonias, good luck chasing the Jax on a side lane whilst they're taking Baron on the other side, whilst they're taking Dragon on the other side. And then he learns the timers and also TPs back. Like, I think, macro-wise, he has been stellar for the team.
The thing that scares me the most about Baus when I watch his content and all that, it's not even that he knows all these things, it's instinct. Most of the times, he doesn't even know why he's doing it, it just feels right. And he says it on the stream, it feels right. Another concern for the enemies right now should be that this individual is taking an acquired taste for the competitive. And people were wondering, like, hey, are you going to do more solo queue content? I was like, nah, I think competitive. He's so deep into this competitive thing that no one knows who's going to stop it. When is he going to be like? So top lane should be a priority as well for Bulldogs. But as they stated on an interview, maybe we just leave him alone. And I think that's the best way to deal with Baus on this one. So with that in mind, I also would like to remind everybody back at home, okay? Mel is enabled. we now can see the Mel. We got to see Mel yesterday, and thankfully production did a massive, like, they were smurfing on production with the Mel, by the way. But as soon it's out, it's out. And I don't think it was that concerning, to be honest. Like, how did you guys feel about that? The Mel existence.
I don't know. I think Mel is really broken, but I think it's very contextually broken, right? We even got to see it earlier on today in the T1 HD series, and I think it was a bit hit or miss. To be fair, I didn't actually get to catch all of that specific game that Faker played it in, so my analysis is very partial here. But again, I think it really depends on what you're playing against, and the power is predominantly in the W, I think, for pro play, and how much or how short range the enemy composition is because of Mel's kit. You kind of want people to kite into you so you can kind of kite back and throw out your spells, and then it's kind of a turnaround thing when it comes to Mel. It's all about the re-engage. So I think that she is strong, but I don't think she's a, must pick ban as far as pro is concerned. I think she's going to be very strong in situations where you see a lot of dive already locked in, and then if there's a couple of spells that can be reflected that are particularly potent off that W, then that's when I think Mel truly shines.
I feel like it's very similar to Milio after he got nerfed, where he was still pretty strong, but you actually wanted his ultimate to have more value than just, I'm gonna heal whoever is around the area, like actually cleanse a big stun or any type of CC. So I feel like with Mel, it's sort of the same. I don't think she's been hit as hard as Milio got hit back then, because he was absolutely broken as well. So I feel like, I think at this point, Nemesis would be won it any day.
Okay, but more as a counter pick, not as a priority, as we get finally the opportunity to jump into the first game out of this best of 3, Los Ratones versus Bulldog Esports. And with that in mind, it's going to be Los Ratones on blue side, taking away the Draven to start this show. Keep in mind, Wukong, such a big priority, Skarner as well, but let's see where they land. There you go, fixed, and there's the Kalista, finally.
Yeah,
I don't know.
XFM being targeted, I like the respect here by Los Ratones, and I wonder if the double AD bans is going to potentially, or triple technically, if the Corki is going to lead to a first pick AD out of LR. Now that we're on 15, I'm still going to refer to it as the old patch system. I refuse to adhere to the nonsense that is like season 1 dot like no, forget all that. 15.3, we've seen a lot less Skarner bans on red side. They still do happen quite frequently, but I wonder if Bulldog are going to try and leave this one up if they've got a potential answer out of it, or if this is going to be the what we've been used to for the last month and a half now, third ban, and it is. So for Los Ratones, my immediate attention is drawn to something like a Varus or an Ezreal, and then we'll see where they decide to go from there.
It's actually crazy that a lot of the teams are going towards the Ezreal. The Maokai ban kind of gave it away, but Mel is one of those champions that has been left open to the picks and bans. I actually thought that we're going to be won it straight away. There's actually really strong champions like the Cassante as well. So I feel like Bulldog Esports have a good chance for a very, very strong R1, R2 if they're looking something like the Cassante, something like a Mel right here, especially since, Baus is going to play his kind of weird picks. I mean, give me a pick that Cassante doesn't actually neutralize at this point.
Rumble is open. That's one of the picks that Baus dislikes with his life. Another one that could be picked was the Varus, but Kai'Sa takes priority. You talked about the Kai'Sa yesterday a lot of times as well, Treble. Even though you were not on the champion select, I know you're feeling towards Kai'Sa. So you lock in the AD carry. What else can you lock it in? Like, do you go for those priority supports, or do you go for something as a jungle right now, as Wukong is available?
I feel like Lulas and Wukong kind of go hand in hand right here. I cannot say that I'm liking the R1 coming through with the Kai'Sa, because Kai'Sa cannot necessarily be taken away, and I feel like Bulldog Esports had the chance to get really strong champions. Obviously, they're locking the Ambessa, can go over in the mid lane. We're talking about gaming plain AD, melee champions as well as the top lane for Miatek. However, right here, you sort of giving it over to Los Ratones to pick champions like the Cassante if they want to, like the Sion, like the Mel. Pretty much seal the deal. Another Pantheon.
Baus Pantheon!
Archer, you can't get as excited as you used to, because it's actually kind of turning into the meta right now. I know. But this is like, look, this is but this is like Nightmare getting excited about Ari being here, It's like Ari's been present for like 3 years.
Not that much, okay? I'm still allowed for hypeness.
I agree, and I'll let it slide because he's been out of the meta for so long. Volibear at the same time, so Pantheon can be flexed towards the support role or the jungle. This Volibear because it's Baus, I would anticipate it's his, special pick here.
It should be, yeah.
Into the Ambessa. But again, the flexibility still for Velia to pilot it is very much alive. Now, earlier on in the draft, Xin Zhao was hovered very late for Bulldogs. I wonder if they're going to change that priority given now what they see on the Los Ratones side and they do towards that Wukong like we highlighted. And there's a lot of dive for Bulldog, and this fits very much into the criteria of what we thought were strong about this lineup. The snap engage potential very much there. They just need to find a little bit more agency for Kasing, and I feel like they're kind of golden for the most part. They will hit a lot of their check marks, and it's going to be about Los Ratones' responses in 4 and 5.
I feel like for Los Ratones right here, if they play a pretty good kiting composition and they already have one piece to that equation, it's the Ezreal. Really hard to catch unless you have point-click CC that will follow him through like a Vi, like a Nautilus kind of thing. It's very hard to catch. Nautilus out, Maokai out, Vi out. There is no point-click CC to follow up with his Ezreal. I'm seeing very short range. I'm seeing 2 melee champions and a Kai'Sa. These kind of champions are very easily kiteable, and especially if you're going to add an engage support like Jamada said into the equation, you have 4 melees into Bulldog Esports. Even something like a Braum right here for Los Ratones, following up that there will be an engage support over Bulldog Esports, could pretty much solidify the deal. I really like what Los Ratones have right there. Volibear thrives when champions dive into him, so he doesn't have to use his ultimate to get deep. Pantheon, the same. So far, I'm liking what I'm seeing for Los Ratones. I'm thinking even Lulus, Karmas, Janas, anything for Reckless could really work.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I wonder if Los Ratones then in mind. I was kind of looking at something like a Rakan here for Kasing. If they kind of just leave it up and go towards the more, kind of standard engage supports, like the Rel rather, and then it's like, well,
they're forcing him on Leona.
If you go on the Rakan or the Leona, then Reckless can kind of just go Janna. In the isolation, it looks pretty good here. I do wonder how the rest of the composition will suit up, right? Pantheon as well still has the flexibility of going into the support role, and I think when you're dealing with something like a Rakan, the lane is so usually weak that you're kind of happy for it. But I think this is exactly what the gambit was out of Los Ratones. It could just be a hover, but again, Ezreal Janna into the Rakan. It's going to be a pretty miserable lane, even to the point where, even though most people would consider Kai'Sa a bit of a counter matchup into the Ezreal, it's more for a later on thing. It's not for lane. So this could get a little bit rough. I think, though, we'll kind of wait for the time to tick. It's got a few more seconds on it. It's been hovered the whole way.
Just lock it. It's perfect. Just lock it.
All right.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
We got it.
I feel like Janna is the cherry on top right here. You can leave Ezreal down bot lane. They said that they wanted to shut down Velia. Janna so quick on the map. Can back up Velia. You have a lot of engaged, disengaged tools coming through from Los Ratones. Again, I feel like peeling is the name of the game for them, and Orianna as well. I feel like they just look impenetrable at this point. They've just created a fort. If you do penetrate the fort, Janna is there. And they only have one button to go in for Bulldog Esports. If it doesn't work, if that target doesn't die, it becomes so difficult then to reach again.
Yeah, this is a big game of cat and mouse. Came in, is he going to go towards the Ahri, which he had so much success on the other week? It's hovered through a lot of dive options. It will be the Aurora in the end. And honestly, I think this is just going to be a very big bloodbath, right? Bulldog have effectively a full 5-man dive composition, and Los Ratones are running 4 champions which really thrive in peeling, and then also the Volibear is just there, I guess, to deal with all of the melee range champions that are going to be diving in. So I think this is all going to be about Bulldog looking for those snap engages like they have looked so successful on time and time again, and Los Ratones maybe leaning into the fact that they know their early games aren't fantastic, but if they can reach those 2-item marks, they can use all of those self-peeling tools to try and pick apart Bulldog's engages.
I'm not gonna lie, I feel like
Tell me.
I feel like Kasing has a lot of the burden of execution coming through from Bulldog Esports. He's the one that's going to be responsible on finding the flanks. If you actually can get onto the Janna, they can delete her really quickly. And this is why I'm saying it's up to Kasing to find the angles for these engages.
Well, tell me, who do you think is going to win? Based on these champions, not on name tags, who do you think is going to take the first game?
I'm going with LR. I really like what they've got.
Jamada.
I'm always a sucker for shotgun comps.
Here we go.
I like what Bulldog have put together here. I think they have enough engages they can get around the self peel that Los Ratones have drafted for themselves. Again, I think it's 2 very thematic comps. We'll have to see how they match up once they get onto the Rift.
Okay, interesting. We're about to jump into the first game of the series. Going to be Los Ratones versus Bulldog. Only one can come out top. Now let's see how we start this one. But before we jump into to the Summer's Rift, take a look at what Arozzi has prepared for you.
Welcome back, one and all. Thank you very much, Des, for breaking that down. We have got a double bill heading of 2 heavyweight showdowns with the winners going on to the upper bracket finals afterwards. Of course, we're starting with Los Ratones versus Bulldog here, and some interesting drafts already. Seriously heavy dive on both sides, and some kind of little interesting bits underneath it. Reckless back on the Janna, Kasing now playing his 58th game of Rakan of all time.
Imagine having so many games on Rakan. Like, do you actually, like, does it change something in your brain chemistry? Imagine what the stats are for the other champions. You know what? I think I don't want to know. What I want to know is how this game is going to go, because we have potentially one of the most explosive games of NLC on our hands right now with these 2 team comps who want to be fighting heavily, who want to be spilling a lot of blood, and to start spilling it pretty early on. This is going to be a very exciting match.
And I do appreciate the fact that there's been some thought put into this bot lane matchup in particular from the desk, because I think with the matchup we've got here as well, Kai'Sa into Ezreal, Kai'Sa historically pretty good into Ezreal in the mid game. You'd be able to hit a W, you can force him to E away, then you follow him with the ultimate and he has a horrible time. You can't run away from the Kai'Sa dive super easily, but Janna behind you, got the Pantheon able to globally ult in behind you, and that makes the dive comp on Bulldog a little harder to execute.
This Janna, honestly, is the most important weapon that Los Ratones have right now versus what Bulldog want to do. Because for Bulldog, they want to press their ultimates, they want to go in, and then they want to start pressing their other buttons right after their ultimates are gone, and they're already at the enemies. Oh, dude, the Baus thing's already to Mintic. Oh my god, did you expect anything else here in the top lane? That's how it's going to look like. You will not see Baus at the middle of the lane. You will see him somewhere very deep on the lane, most likely just, you know, having a little unspeakable fun with the minions there. But can we go back to the bot lane for a second? Because I am so happy to finally see Reckless on Janna. I haven't seen him yet in a professional game that I've been casting, so finally, this is my time to shine. I love Janna, and I think here she's going to be excellent, because she has a lot of disengagement tools if you need to withstand and engage from Bulldogs, with her Qs, with her insane shielding, with her ultimate that's going to throw enemies away and give you a lot of healing later in the game. But Janna is one of those champions that you usually look at as defensive champions, but if utilized correctly in the right hands, she can be very offensive during the laning phase.
I mean, we'll see what max Reckless tends to go for, but there's been a lot of discussions over the years about what the Janna goes towards, and the Zephyr max, that W max, can be so annoying. This huge poke, you had to run down people with your autos. The Rakan just sort of has to slowly waddle away as you chase at him, and it can be really difficult to deal with. And if you then, with all those slows coming on through, get Crowny to be able to hop on forwards with the Arcane Shift and the Mystic Shots being empowered by all those Ws and stuff, it can be very, very annoying to manage.
Yes, it will be very, very annoying. And Reckless is level 2, already having the Zephyr, and you could already see a little glimpse on the bot lane with him having a little bit of fun there. But Baus, yeah, I told you that's what's gonna happen. You will not see him anywhere next to his outer turret. That's where he belongs, okay? He belongs in the enemy territory of the lane.
And in really no surprise, he started with a Dark Seal. He's going for the AP Volley Bear starting item. We'll see exactly what he goes with. If he does pick up some of those early kills, he can get a lot of value, and goes for the early reset, having proxied the wave, and you need to see what build he tends to go towards. We're getting that kind of weird Nashes into Flicker Blades build that seemed to mash up the AD and AP that was popular a few months back. And it is, of course, Baus, who's now gone and got himself a Doran's Ring as well for a bit more AP. I think he's probably cooking again. When is he not?
Fair question. When is he not? And this is Volibear of all champions he's talking about, paired up with a Pantheon that he's having in his jungle. This is a very explosive duo early in the game. Like, when you get ultimates unlocked, you can expect them to fight, but even before that.
Goes across the Veil. Cayman's still going to get jumped on with the shield. Well, I think he's just dead, even with the flash. Not going to do it. Velia picks it up. For a man who was criticized for being a little lost in the map by Lulas in the interview, that's a nice first pickup. And again, he's on the Pantheon now. You want to be globally aware. You want to be using that ult to get around the map and making good value. And that's a great start to the game. Picks off that Aurora who doesn't retreat properly.
Didn't look like he was very lost in the battle mid that moment.
Oh, Mientek. How much further does Baus want to go here? Lulas is around, but I don't think Baus wants to chase it too much further, but that'll still be the Ambassador forced to reset. Baus, because he cleared out the wave, didn't even have to burn the teleport, by the way. He's got to walk back to lane. So, still has that ability to reset again with that TP advantage.
There was an adorable clip from one of our streams some time ago when he was talking about how much he loves pro play just because there is always someone smart in his ears telling him that the enemy jungler might be on the top side, and then it actually turns out that the jungler is on the top side. And you know what? I feel like at that very moment that we saw on the screens a little bit earlier, somebody was telling Baus, hey, there might be a jungler on the top of the map, don't go any further. And Baus this time did listen to the voices. He did not overcommit, he just reset. He's again going back to the lane because, hey, he has pushed in so much, he doesn't need to TP back. There is no reason to waste a teleport like that.
And I think there's something to that, right? In the sense that Baus as a player has always been really good at pushing the line, stepping over the line when other people don't know how to deal with it, and getting a lot of advantage for it. Yeah, dying sometimes, made a whole career out of it, hell, with the Scion passive and all of those early stories of this guy and whether he was he inting, was he greeting, is this the correct way to play? And that discussion when he first kind of gained a little bit of notoriety, not necessarily popularity at the time, and ult there used for Cayman to get a big chunk onto Nemesis, who did look like he had to flash there, so do keep our eyes on that. But back to story time for a second or two here, but this is a guy who thrived on abusing information, knowing what to do with the information he had to really eke out every advantage he could do and get a lot of pressure from it. Pro play, where you've got much better comms, where you've got much better struck at information from, only enables that more to my mind, and so far so good for him in that mid game. He's been so frustrating as the Howling Gale interrupts Xfang. And in the picture-in-picture, thank you very much, production, Baus and Velia combined to get themselves the early set of grubs.
With so much pride having on the top lane for Los Ratones, it is no surprise that they decide to go for the early grubbies as their first objective. The dragon is still in question for Bulldogs in the bot lane, but the bot lane is suffering. Mid lane is not suffering, but I feel like Bulldogs are looking at this dragon possibility at the moment. They have Lulas on the bot part of the map. However, they don't have Cayman's ultimate for quite some time still, and it's really risky for them to be pulling big moves on the objectives right now, especially after they've already lost the first one. And I gotta say, while we're here, I am surprised we're only at 1-0 at this point in the game. I hope it's going to get accelerated a little bit.
Someone check Crowny's PC, because that ain't natural. Hitting so many Qs on this Kai'Sa under the turret. The accuracy is good. And we said, Kai'Sa, bit of a counter, but here comes the Grand Starfall. Velia has a flash, could look for it. There's a cleanse available from Xfang, will not need to use it, because he burns the flash early. All the while, Baus has died in the top side. Looking probably to proxy at the same time, but it's left Kasing out to dry a little under the tower. Oh, little Rakan, there is nowhere for you to go. Gets a double knockup, but the Howling Gale ensures that Crowny is donated another kill. And Xfang nowhere to be seen because of that reset. Gonna get clipped by the True Shot barrage as well. So not even getting back to lane with a full HP bar.
Oh, that hurts on the bot side for Bulldogs. But hey, I wonder what happened on the top lane. I hope we see the replay, because it looked like it was a solo kill for Mientek on Baus on the top lane. There was Lulas around when we saw it in the picture-in-picture when he just died in the enemy
Public
jungle.
execution got burned, so yeah.
Yeah, Atrum's favorite ability in the whole game, by the way. But it looks like it was just an easy kill. I mean, Ambassador, at the moment she has her ultimate unlocked, it becomes so much easier for her to go for those solo kills on the enemies, especially when they haven't really built up anything against her just yet. But while we're waiting, oh, thank you very much, we're not waiting anymore. So basically, Baus is less than half HP here, and he decides to go in.
Dive?
What?
And he didn't shut the turret down, he was too
He
short.
doesn't shut the turret
turret's still
down.
on. Oh dear. And then goes to proxy regardless. Mientek says you cannot do this, has to run away from Lulas and dies.
And dies, yeah. That's basically the whole story, yeah. We were talking about Baus, you know, finding those unconventional plays. That play maybe was a little bit too unconventional.
Look,
I'm trying to be
sometimes the
kind.
line between int and genius is just int. Sometimes it's just the wrong move. And Baus is normally pretty good at knowing when he could just about step over that line. That was like leaping with 2 feet over to try and shut down the turret. Maybe overplayed that one just a touch.
You gotta say, though, he hasn't given Mientek too much of an advantage, even giving away the kill. Because if you look at the difference in the gold, it's gone! Look at that! At the gold level difference between the top leaders, it's completely gone. Baus has been farming up so viciously that there is no way you can get into gold proficiency with just 1 kill onto him.
And I think the other thing we're now going to check out is the fact that Los Ratones just off their laning are up a significant amount of gold. They are 1.5 just over K gold ahead, and that is a big, big deal, especially when on the desk we're saying, look, Los Ratones on many things, a very strong team. Their mid games in particular, exceptional. But the early games, sometimes have left a little bit to be desired. Nemesis, sure, strong laning, but we've seen a lot of skirmishes go wrong. Lots of teams get advantages against them, and then they've had to crawl their way back in the mid game with the strong macro moves, with the strong mechanics that the team has. That's not the case this game. They're just starting off with a significant lead pretty much everywhere you care to look.
Where is Baus? Do you see him on the minimap?
I see him in the picture-in-picture too. Baus,
Yeah.
that's not your side of the map, mate. Why are you there?
Speaking of overstepping, that's just, you know, that's just Baus things. You can't really say anything about this guy. What he's doing there is he's potentially preparing the grubbies for Los Ratones right now, because they already have the first set, would really love to go for the second set right now that is spawning very soon. And now with the proxy on the top lane, that should give enough time for Los Ratones to move and to rotate their jungler there and to get these grubbies, especially with this Ambessa recall.
Xfeng is not having fun down here. That's a very good accuracy from the skill shots. WQE, you're forward for the extra auto. Xfeng down to an auto away from death. Has to back away again. Look for the true shot barrage. Just shy, doesn't read it. The chunks out Kasing again. Both bot laners are going to have to lead. Kai'Sa might be a counter into Ezreal in the mid game, in the laning phase with this Zartjana poke. As Nemesis just command dissonances down Cayman. The Aurora is down for a count as well. The killer bunny rabbit is deceased.
He just walked up and threw the ball, and that was enough. But now can Mieta get out of here?
Skysplitter comes on down. Will Draco step forwards? Lulas to take a look for a Cyclone. Gets it onto Baus, who does have his ultimate available. Failure flashes over the wall, and that might be Baus in danger. We'll get a shield behind him. Good look for a flash forwards. Thundering smash. Mientek has nowhere to go, and Ambessa. It's just the end of Arcane all over again.
So, help me read that right, because I am confused about the reasoning for Bulldogs here. You have lost the grubbies. You have lost all of them already. Like, there is nothing you can do in the speed anymore. What exactly is the idea when you go into the speed after the objective is down? Is that just to kill Baus? Have we not learned anything from the seeding stage about killing Baus?
They lose every side of the map. Every lane at once just loses. There's a huge play bot lane, where Crowny and Reckless force both bot lanes off. A solo kill mid lane into grubs into 2 kills top lane. Los Ratones could not have asked for a better sequence across the map.
Absolutely not. They have complete control over everywhere. They have taken down the first turret on the bot lane. They are now trying to do the same thing to the top lane one. The dragon is still for taking. Nemesis
has got flash, but there's an ult from the Aurora trying to buy some time. Flash away finally as Velia comes into defense. Baus is here as well, who's teleported in another Thundering Smash. It came in. Will be leaving very shortly. Baus hits him with a frenzied maul, and the bunny rabbit does not win against the bear. Turns out, polar bears tend to be better than bunny rabbits on the whole.
I've heard something about polar bears being like apex predators, you know.
So they say.
Not sure. Yeah, so they say. Have never met one myself, so can't really say. If I ever do, I will let you know how it goes. I hope it doesn't happen though. Anyway,
I'm not sure. Hang on, Baus. He's gonna have Mientek run at him. The action's just not stopping. I think Baus might just die. Runs away. The Stormbringer is pretty good. Sorry, Skysplitter. I apologize. Don't want to conflate those two abilities. As Mientek just lacerating slams him and he dies.
I have a suspicion Baus is enjoying that. Like, they killed him twice. They have tried to kill him a couple of times more, but at the same time, Los Ratones are not losing anything whatsoever with this one death of Baus. They are still getting in the control over the map. They have Nemesis on the bot lane right now, just pushing in, prepping potentially for the first Drake of the game that is still somehow standing by the 14th minute of the game. They are 6-2 everywhere across the map. Los Ratones are feeling very, very confident, have the first items already in the inventories of everybody. Like, if you lose Baus once or twice more, do you even notice that at this point?
We were making comments like, wow, Los Ratones got a solid enough early gold lead. That's not solid anymore. That is game-breaking. They are over 6,000 gold, or just under that, ahead before plates have fallen. They've claimed 2 full turrets and nearly the mid lane one to boot. They've got 6 grubs. They've got the feats of strength. They're about to get a dragon as well. That is brutal, brutal stuff. They have literally picked up, if they get this last one here, all but 1 plate available to them. Bulldog we give them credit for the manner in which they pushed this far, for the manner in which they won the tiebreakers from starting 1 and 3 to making it all the way here in playoffs. But right now, feels like Los Ratones are making a statement. It's that Bulldog, if you want to join a heavyweight match, you need to be able to throw some heavyweight punches, and so far, they've been looking a little bit down the weight class.
2.2k gold lead for Crowny right now compared to XFN.
That's brutal.
Crowny, together with Reckless, got the turret on the bot lane, rotated to the top lane, got the turret on the top lane, rotated to the mid lane, got the turret on the mid lane, and he's feeling very proud of his results right now, I bet, because that's a lot of money for just 2 guys. And when Sam and I saw this Ezreal B1 during the draft, we were thinking that potentially there's going to be a support who's going to be able to roam, because Ezreal traditionally is a champion who's feeling rather okay being alone on the lane. He's pretty self-sufficient. But it's been the opposite, funny enough. Reckless has not left Crowny's side so far. They're always together. Reckless is always there to make sure that Crowny survives should anything unexpected happen. But frankly, nothing unexpected has happened so far. It's not like Bulldog are actively trying to take Crowny down, or at least to slow him down.
We are waiting on 100 or so stacks until Crowny gets a Muramana transformation, and then this game is feeling very, very tricky. Look at the build on the Janna as well. That is Comet for increased poke that scales well with AP. You've got the Imperial Mandate with the Zazak's Rune Spike. There's no Dreamcatcher, there's no Moonstone. This is actually a damage. I want to empower my Ezreal build. You will hurt a lot with this Janna empowering you.
Why are we looking at Baus again? Why are we having 3 members of Bulldogs on the bot and looking at Baus right now? I hope we don't have any silly plans right now. Just let Cayman stay there. Cayman is only 1 level behind. That should be fine for him.
Singh throws a feather at him. And doesn't care all much. He's gone for the Cosmic Drive here as well to go through as many abilities as possible. Remember that the more that Volibear gets to Frenzy Maul, the more damage he does, the more healing he gets. That's why the extended fights are always so frustrating against a champion like that. Not going to be the tankiest per se if he doesn't get to hit that E button a lot, but with it, it can be really, really obnoxious.
And right now he's still on the bot lane, has the teleport available, by the way, and this is the time when we have the Herald to the top part of the map with Nemesis and Reckless still pushing the waves in. They are having so much control over the map, and specifically of the top part of the map, rotating Ezreal there right now. This looks like a free Herald for Los Ratones right now, and free Herald for Los Ratones means that's going to be the inner turrets of Bulldogs that are going to go down very soon. Honestly, I'm trying to look at Bulldogs and see what exactly they can do right now in the game to try to stabilize it a little bit, maybe to buy themselves some time.
It's difficult.
It's very difficult, yes, because you have all the losing lanes and no control over the map.
Cayman's in trouble, but it's a 1v4 bout. Are you sure? They'll bring in the team with the killer Instafang, and they'll give a kill over the guys that necessary. Because I was about to say, Crowny has just hit 200 CS in 17 minutes. There is a Doomby Rise hack happening right now on your screens. This Ezreal is insanely ahead. As now Kasing's in danger, it's even more damage. Oh my days, Imperial Mandate gets a big proc, public execution puts Crowny in danger, but there's a Monsoon that keeps him right back to full. Lulas can't find anything. Big shockwave after, and the Intech goes down alongside Nemesis claiming Cayman. Intech, I apologize, did manage to escape, but they still get one of the solos. A true shot barrage just wide.
So close. Almost hit them. Almost hit my heart. But it did not. This turret, though, is not going to survive for long. They can take it. They don't even need Herald for that, even though, frankly, they have it already in their pockets, so can unleash at any moment.
Days.
The thing, though, for Bulldogs, what do you do right now? You can't engage on the Los Ratones. If you do that, you saw what Reckless just did with the Q, with the ultimate. He just throws you away and you can say anything. And if he doesn't do it, Baus and Belcher will do exactly what they're doing right now. They destroy him.
The immortal words of Jamada. What do you do in a situation like this? You pray and you hope that someone oversteps. Baus dying, not bad. You get another kill. Velia now potentially in danger. Xafang, no ult. Can't really follow as Velia will flash and get on out. They lose Baus again. Trying to be a little greedy with another flash forwards for a bit more of a slow. Gonna get more chunk on Velia who will likely die out. That's potentially huge. Is there a dragon or something to play for? Not really. Not even, of course, late enough for Atakan to have spawned. So despite killing the jungler, despite getting 2 kills, doesn't really lead to all that much. And look at where the waves are. They are shoved all the way back. The closest you've got is one wave now finally crossing the river in bot lane.
So even if you kill somebody from Los Ratones, you can't really go and try to do anything around the dragon, like at least establishing some deeper vision or something, because you gotta go back to the base, you gotta deep push the waves, you gotta look for safer place at the moment as Bulldogs. But hey, silver linings, right? It's something good that happened for them. We had a good shutdown going for Mientek. Mientek is a very strong top lane player, and he has been growing a lot throughout this split. And honestly, his Ambessa is probably one of the flashiest champions that he has in his kit right now.
Yeah.
She's already 3-1-1, has an Eclipse completed, so potentially if we're looking for maybe the slight win con for Bulldogs in this game, if they try to play around this meta, maybe there is a world where something interesting happens. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, I'm saying there is a vision.
If you were looking for a desperate hope, that's it, right? And I tend to agree. And actually, Lulas going to turn up. Baus again being attacked, trying to get some value. The public exchange comes down afterwards. Baus, huge healing with the attempt of the Frenzied Maul. Will not save their life, though. They get another kill, and they are Mientek. You literally just called it out. They do it again. True shot barrage. Chags Lulas, but not Mientek, who would have been slightly more valuable.
He wouldn't have died, but it at least maybe would have hurt him mentally. I don't know. I'm trying to look for something.
Emotional damage.
Emotional,
And, like,
it's mostly that, yes.
Yeah, and again, the problem is, like, yes, you've got this Ambassa fed. The Ambassa's got 2 items. Fantastic. Can you convert that into breaking the Ezreal? Because you need to. This Ezreal is so ahead. 244 CS in 20 minutes. Has a Janna who is building to amp this Ezreal damage out the wazoo. And no, ask what a wazoo is. It's like a random British phrase. I offer you no explanations in this trying time.
Thank you. I don't want one. Thank you.
That's probably wise. I don't want to know. That's probably the correct decision in this moment. Mientek, they run up by Baus, who goes thundering, smashing forwards. Nemesis in danger. They try to find a 1 versus 2, but in comes the Grand Starfall. Claiming goes over the wall. Nemesis flashing on afterwards. Command, attack, and dissonance. Exafeng trades it, makes it the 1-for-1, but on the other side, it's still a 2-for-2 going on. And in the end, it'll still be the additional kill going the way of Los Ratones. Mid lane, Mientek being dived as Baus gets some vengeance. And Los Ratones come out on top. Crowdy now looking to pick some members up. 2 levels up on this Kai'Sa, by the way. Still hasn't completed the Muramana transformation because he just got his item so damn early. His tier never got to stack. It has now stacked. Tier 2 still goes down. And Bulldog, I appreciate the fact you aren't going quietly into the night. I appreciate the fact that you are trying to make plays. It is just so desperately hard at this stage in the game.
With so much gold loose for Los Ratones, with them being so ahead with levels, with the itemization, with control of the map, with everything, it's just so hard to find plays for Bulldog. And even if when you find a play, Los Ratones are usually very fast to answer, and they find the kills of their own, they find the advantages of their own. Getting the Atacon right now, there is no way in the world Bulldogs are getting anywhere close to this Atacon. Look at Crowny, look at Reckless! Reckless is just holding
Bulldog.
his line in the jungle.
Gonna try. They might have to try and play it after as Mientek is teleported in, but it's very late. The withdrawal's still available. Baus goes into the sky, and the God of Thunder descends. They get with 1 withdrawal, but Crowny is having none of it. Neither is Velia. A double kill for the Pantheon. And what is a god before a man? Pantheon has ascended the mountain, and somewhere out there I can hear Archeron screaming as a triple kill comes on through from the man of Targon.
And they know where Cayman is. They've been clicking on his little portrait on the minimap, but they don't need him. They are not here for the kills. They are here to destroy the enemies where it hurts the most. They are here to destroy their Nexus in 20 goddamn minutes. Is that the fastest game we've had so far?
It feels like it. This has been a statement, and it is not that they are here to win. It is that they are here to traumatize. An obscene early game lead. Crowny on this Ezreal has pulled out some world-beating numbers. The NLC thought that they would be dangerous in game 1 here of this best of 3. They are proving they are just straight up lethal. The Nexus next on the call. They're looking to Fountain Types, of course. Baus. Tip. Grand Starfall will crash down across the breaking Nexus. It is domination.
And you gotta appreciate this one last kill going into the pockets of Reckless as his first and last kill of this game, because that's what you do when your support, especially such as Janna, has done a mighty good job throughout the game. You tell him, hey, take this 1 kill. This is my payment for you for a really good job. He has done exceptionally well in this game. Baus has been great. Everybody on the Los Ratones squad has popped off here. And unfortunately for Bulldog, from the very early moments in this game, it didn't look like they were having any realistic chance of getting getting the game back on track and of trying to find their own ways to have it under their control.
And the thing that I think is going to be very scary is Los Ratones' early game was supposed to be their weakest part.
Yeah.
In this early game, they broke every lane. Baus was proxy farming. Even when Baus was dying, he was still even in gold. It was only later on that he started to bleed out a little bit of gold, and that really doesn't matter when you have a Ezreal that's 200 CS at 15 minutes. We've got this Janna who's popped off, Nemesis who's also got a solo kill against Cayman, who was 15-3 last week on the Ahri, was popping off himself, and that is a lot of very, very scary statements to make. If Los Ratones have figured out the early game, I shudder for the rest of the league. Desk, do you have anything more to say?
6 kills, 6 grubbies, 6,000 gold lead, and all of that before 12 minutes. I mean, if this doesn't
You missed
like
one.
speak loud, what?
You missed one. 6 deaths on Bausi.
That's part
Nice,
of the
man.
experience, you know. That's what you get
Of course.
when you're watching Los Ratones. And yeah, just as Initialize was stating, the idea that their macro and the way they can come back into a game is so big. I mean, we didn't need to see it because they were the ones in the leads the entire travel. What can we talk about this starting from the beginning?
Okay, I get kind of nervous when in
Okay.
Europe I see an Ezreal B1 lock that confidently, but that
much PTSD.
Ezreal, right? But that Ezreal
Crowny.
absolutely destroyed that lane. Crowny was on another level. I honestly didn't think that they could chokehold him so hard in the laning phase, and I feel like that doesn't only happen for bot lane. I feel like every single lane was kind of the same. I just think it was kind of like a hands diff, at least for game one. I think it's as simple as this.
Yeah, I also think the fact that we didn't quite end up getting to see a lane swap, and I think it's mostly because if you're Bulldog, do you want to put Maytek on Ambessa in a lane swap situation? Probably not, but the bot lane matchup is so rough. We spoke about how, you know, Ezreal and Janna into the 2v2 can very much handle themselves. We got to see it on the Rift, and I think the fact that Kasing additionally roamed away from the lane a couple of times, because that was obviously the call from Bulldog. They wanted to contest the grabs, they wanted to contest plays across the map in the early laning phase. It left Xafeng on the bottom side to pretty much just get abused for the entirety of the laning phase. And I think fundamentally, once Bulldog lose the plays on the top side whilst committing numbers to the top side, and then at the same time, Crowny is basically just farming for free on the bottom lane, getting plates, chunking out Xafeng, life just gets really hard from the offset. So yeah, the Los Ratones early game kind of just gets to exist, right, in this one, where normally you would probably expect the team with, you know, arguably the slightly more proactive tools on Bulldog to be able to get off the mark first.
They were
But this is
talking
kind
about
of
that,
what-
but tell me, Trouble.
Yeah, this is what kind of got me skeptical right here. I don't think Reckless even died once. I felt like the easiest target to kill on Los Ratones would be Reckless. He's extremely squishy. If you catch him with probably a Cyclone, a Rakan ult, flank, Kai'Sa jumps into the backline, you get the Janna out of the equation, which is one of the big peeling tools that Los Ratones has. But I don't necessarily think I saw a cohesive skirmish, a cohesive situation where Bulldog Esports were basically all on the same screen. I think the only time I saw them all on the same screen was on the last team fight, where it was just, I feel like it was just already over when you're like 10+K down in gold. Even if you press all your buttons like Faker, I still don't think you can just pull it through.
This is after they told us that it looked like Los Ratones were not on the same page all the time, and sometimes Velger was behind, and they were going to group up and force team fights with the upper hand. Like, oh, we have +1, we can get those team fights. And on this team fight specifically on Grubs, it was a -1. So what was provided to us on the interview was the opposite we got to see in this game. And Los Ratones just played their game and dominated. And what can you do?
Not much. I think
Good.
I think that the way that this, I mean, just being honest, I think the way that the draft pans out, if you don't get to play your game as this Bulldog composition, then I was discussing with Trouble right before we came back to desk. This game probably looks at the very least playable for Bulldog if at 15 or maybe in like a little bit closer to 20 minutes they're only down like a K.5, 2,000 gold. But being down 6,000, 5,000 gold at 15, 16 minutes, Crowny being on 2 items, you know, before 20 minutes, it's just, life is just going to be too hard to play, right? And this is the only fight where we got to see Bulldog all on the same screen, and a lot of this is predominantly wallet diff, to be frank with you. This, I don't even feel like this fight is necessarily super horrible. If gold is even, there's a lot more damage on offer from the side of Bulldog. So, again, I think you can definitely point fingers at the draft, and I think you'd be right to in some cases, but also the decisions that Bulldog made in the early game, I'm not going to say inexcusable, that's a very strong word, but it offered up too much freedom to Los Ratones to get to a point where they can just more or less wait for you to engage and walk around the map with first move all the time, and the second you go in, they just blow you up.
To also reply to the initial question of, we didn't necessarily see them get towards Velia, try to stop them from advancing in the game at all, like choke Velia in his jungle or whatever they were planning, is that you need 2 people to do that. Just Lulas cannot just walk in, having no prior through lanes. I feel like the biggest, most reliable weapon that you have in Bulldog Esports is probably Kasing. Kasing had to babysit Exofang because he was dying under his tower. He was pinned under his tower on a very short range AD carry, and that didn't allow Kasing to get unlocked on the map. So we didn't necessarily have to see those chances of linking up, jungle support, roaming towards the mid lane, maybe try to shut down Nemesis, maybe try to lead some kills off of Baus over in the top lane. It just did not happen. I feel like not being able to unlock Kasing onto the map really did cost Bulldog Esports this game.
Like everything, we tried to bring it up on how they could tackle down Los Ratones. Didn't show up, at least on this first one. Maybe nervous, maybe they just don't have the plan that they thought they would. And yeah, we actually want to highlight Crowny. We've been talking about it. But when you play Ezreal, and it feels like you're playing Caitlyn, because you're getting just poked underneath the tower, even behind your minions. That gold difference at 14 is not legal.
No, it's not. Yeah,
it's not okay.
A ridiculous amount of gold to get on. Like, Ezreal is the kind of champion historically who you go, yeah, we're going to pick Ezreal. We're going to just kind of go even, maybe like a small loss at worst. And then we're going to hit 2 items and we're going to be super useful. 2,000 gold is the kind of, 2,000 gold lead is the kind of game where you think, oh, this is probably a Callista lane into something like Jinx or whatever. It is absolutely ridiculous stats to run as an Ezreal. And I think for the case of Bulldog, they're probably going to be happy it's gone. And it also, I guess our question of, wow, B1 Ezreal priority, really? Very swiftly answered a little bit. I think the support matchup had a lot more to do with it, but we'll wink and nod and say that that's the case.
Hey, one Ezreal game, one game of redemption, closer to redemption, sorry, for the Ezreals in Europe, okay? One Ezreal game at a time.
That's true. And now I wonder if Los Ratones end up on red side, if this is just going to kind of be a similar story of if Varus is now up, because I would imagine, you know, if Los Ratones are prioritizing Ezreal, it says to me that they're really looking towards like the Korean, you know, draft priorities to me. So does Varus now just become the next like best in slot AD once we hit that second draft? We'll kind of have to wait and see. I'm assuming they'll be on red side. Normally teams pick blue when they you know, have the opportunity to. Most teams view blue as the stronger side.
Yeah, we're still waiting to get that information on what side Bulldog is going to pick. And in order to do that, we'll throw it to a quick break, and after we're back, we're gonna jump into the second game of the series, and possibly the last one, if Los Ratones are capable of just solidifying their lead in the way they played on this first one. Don't go anywhere, I'll see you soon. Be right back. And we are back. Game 2 is on the line in favor of Los Ratones to finish this one pretty fast. That means Northern Verdant will take place afterwards if Bulldog Esports don't show up for the second one. With that in mind, I would like to highlight that Bulldog Esports took blue side for Game 2. So some priority is going to appear, but for what, for who?
Ooh, that's a very interesting question because we have seen Kallista's banned out. I feel like what Yamada said previously, something like the Devourers. I feel like Exofang needs to have a pretty strong showing in the laning phase. I feel like this is what's going to get them out. Again, freeing Kasing on the map, getting Exofang a pretty good matchup over in the bot lane. Like one or the other really needs to happen, and potentially securing something on B1 for bot lane could be huge.
Yeah, I think there was also one thing we didn't really touch on in the kind of post game there was also just how well Nemesis kind of just put Cayman in the dirt in the laning phase. It was pretty systematic, right? And I think again we kind of spoke about how important the jungle support was. Yes, but for Bulldog, I feel like a large portion of Lulas not being able to find plays kind of around those early objectives also had to do with the fact that Nemesis had constant priority around that mid lane. So let's see how the draft unfolds, because I didn't think that Aurora into Orianna was as hard winning a matchup as Orianna made it look to be in that game one. As Bulldog, they're now on blue side. I'm still wondering about that AD priority with Varus. You can see the bans above our heads as to what is not available for game number 2. And Ratones keeping that Draven ban. I expect them to also still keep the Kalista ban as well, alongside that Skarner. I'm anticipating that those bans will be preordained, and for Bulldog, a little bit more freedom.
Oh, I'm actually... okay. When I see a Vi ban that early, to me, that kind of means slippery champions over in the bot lane. Now, of course, Ezreal was played over in game 1, but in game number 2, you could potentially be looking towards something like a Zeri. Now, it's very secondary or even... worse than secondary on the side of Bulldog Esports. However, it's one of the most scaling champions, and the Vi ban really scares me to see it from the blue side.
True.
Yeah, no, Archer, I see you making up your face. I assume it's the blue side Skarner ban.
Yeah.
So when you leave it up like this, like Los Ratones have done, now that we're on 15.3, a lot of teams have started to leave Skarner up because of the nerfs. Some teams are kind of allowing it to go through. Bulldog very clearly not comfortable with the idea of it being traded in any capacity in the event that Los Ratones didn't ban it, so it does give them that free ban. It's an additional AD ban towards Exofeng. So Los Ratones, I feel like are kind of just saying, yeah, Exofeng's just your best player. We're going to pinch this pool as much as possible. Maokai first pick, definitely a very interesting one. Again, flexible, usually in the jungle, but we've seen a little bit more top lately. It just kind of depends on what the matchup ends up being for that top lane.
It was banned in game number 1 as well, so it was banned from Los Ratones towards Bulldog Esports, and we're not supposed to talk over hovers. I really don't think that a Jarvan could
blind,
come through.
I mean, Baus is here. Jarvan's not as a thing, so I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna make the assumption that it's gonna be in Velia's hands, especially again for Bulldog. Maokai you would maybe expect to be a little bit more in Matex kind of wheelhouse as opposed to Lulas.
Wow.
Now, with the Jinx lock-in at the same time, that kind of makes you think, okay, this is a takeaway because we don't want to have to deal with the Jarvan having an immobile AD carry. But now Bulldog can still find a lot of engage tools of their own in response.
This might be actually a Zeri game right here. You've taken away a lot of tools that can catch the Zeri, the Maokai, the Vi. Nautilus is the one that remains. But again, Jamada did mention the Varus previously, and I'm just very surprised it hasn't risen into priority. But they're not yet picking immobile AD carry after you've seen the Jarvan. Doesn't mean that the Jarvan is necessarily jungle. Doesn't matter where he could be support for all you know. But
yeah, I mean, look, it's like awesome. We have the matchup into the AD, into Jinx. It's like Varus is one of the most punishing matchups into Jinx, I think, out there. That said, you're still playing Varus into Jarvan, so you're going to have to find a couple of other avenues of some zone control, right? Of some peel. Jace is going to come in alongside this, so a lot of poke is there for Bulldog. But right now, Los Ratones, with the Jarvan, you could just layer in another engage tool if you want. You could even, for all intents and purposes, just say screw it all, go Lulu, so you've got the Jinx with the Enchanter support as well. I think options are super open for this R3 it really depends on what they want. But Bulldog seem very, very set in this draft right now of, you know, 2 poke champions, a Maokai for zone control, and then they can really round out their draft however they feel like it. Los Ratones, 1 hyper carry, 2 frontliners. The Scion should definitely mean that Jarvan goes to Velia.
I'm getting very scared right here. The Scion locked in kind of smells like a lane swap to me from the side of Los Ratones. And last time I remember Bulldog Esports in a lane swap scenario, they got absolutely dizzy on the map. We have commended Los Ratones for their macro as well. So just want to hope that Bulldog Esports have got an answer for the lane swap. I mean, you can even bunch up as 5 at the early game, try to scout deep wards, anything like this, because it hasn't favored them so far. And luckily enough for Baus, that's not only his main, he's the best anti-dive champion in the entire game as well in terms of lane swaps.
Yeah.
Rumble out, you don't want to play that as Baus, you really don't want to play that versus Scion. But also, like, if you're gonna lane swap, why not leave it open?
Yeah, I guess that's true, but we'll kind of have to sit here and wait. I like the Thresh call out here towards Kasing. Kasing's obviously a legacy Thresh player as well, and into Jarvan, and when you've got Varus against that J4 again, it does make a lot of sense. See the Milio ban. I wonder if they double up on the Enchanters, or if they take away at the very least one of those kind of irritating engaged champs. I think if you go Milio, then you're more likely to also just slam the Lulu, but the Azir is what comes out, and I like that, because you already have, you know, 1 hyper carry having to kind of deal with a pseudo second. It's very frustrating, but now Syndra comes through for Crowny, for Nemesis, and Jarvan, Nemesis, and the Syndra in that mid jungle 2v2 after Cayman had a really rough game, number 1. I wonder how much punishment he's going to take if he lands either on this Jace or another immobile mid.
Just give me any engage support here from Kasing, Leona, Nautilus, any of this. I think it's really needed. He's going to be the one engaging anyway. So it just has to be anything with the power to create play, especially for the bot lane. Having the setup, having the Maokai ganking through as well is going to be huge for them, unless that Maokai ends up going over to the bot lane in the hands of Kasing, right? I don't necessarily think so. I think it's going to be something like a Nautilus, a Leona, a Rel, something that can very clearly engage and pull up with the Maokai.
I think they really need the Leona because they're dealing with Jinx Syndra. Ooh, I really don't know how much I like this.
The Maokai. Yeah.
It's going to be Maokai support. I mean, I think this could end up being a little bit rough now for Bulldog. I think their skirmishing is going to be kind of fine around the bottom lane in particular, unless this Reckless pick really breaks apart the possibility of a strong 2v2 or 3v3. But beyond that, I think Mel's going to take a little bit of time. Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, Braum can really make this miserable. And I think there's no reason not to lock it in. So there you go. Bulldog, I think they're just playing an uphill battle here. If they get lane swapped on as well, I think life goes from bad to worse. I think at the very least they can play at 2 items. That's kind of where their game gets a little bit easy, but then there's that trough where, you know, Los Ratones will get to play directly after that with Jinx hitting 3.
They've been mind-controlled. Jarvan was picked, and then we have 2 immobile, 3 with Jace if he goes towards a more aggressive build. 3 carries that are immobile for the mind-controlled. Usually the other thing happens. You pick the immobile carries, and someone slams the Jarvan into you. Questionable. However, there are avenues around it. Tanky Jace into on-hit Varus. They could have a strong enough front line to allow Exofang to scale into those 3 item on-hit Varus to try and chip into the Braum, the Jarvan, and the Scion. But I feel like Los Ratones, again, they've built a fort in front of the Jinx. Like, how do you penetrate?
Yeah, they've played Stellar around Clowny on the previous game, and Ezreal dominated. Will he be able to do the same with the Jinx from the get-go? Or will Bulldog actually walk the walk after talking the talk? We'll see that after the break, and then we'll jump into Summoner's Rift. I'll see you soon.
Welcome back, one and all, to the NLC. We're straight onto the Rift. No messing around this time around. No additional frills to these bells and whistles. Los Ratones go for the early level 1 invade. Resets come on through. We said it might be a bit of a tricky one if the lane swap came on through. Sion, the master of that. Even when lane swapping was just not good, when it was really difficult to pull off, you could still do it with Sion because of how potent he was in those lane swaps regardless. And Jinx, of course, notoriously pretty good at turret destruction. She gets a chance to get up in range and use some of those minigun auto attacks. Try and play that one out here. Certainly looking for that invade.
We already saw Crowny and Reckless together putting a lot of emphasis onto destroying the enemy turrets in the previous game. You can imagine, I think, that that's going to be the same idea for them in this game. Because this time they have the Jinx, this time they have the Braum again with the same idea to keep that Jinx safe for as long as possible. So I would not be surprised to see Crowny a lot around all of the lanes. But Niantic, brother, you don't go to this
risky. So, Braum level 1 is arguably the strongest champion in the game. That passive, that Q, is very, very difficult to beat. Went to go try and mess around with it a little bit. Doesn't get hit by the Q and is mostly fine. Doesn't do much more than give Velia a bit of a love tap and leave it alone. And of course, no misfortune in the game, so that's not even an ability.
I'm quite happy we don't have misfortune, to be fair. We have, though, some interesting things already happening with Kisink on the bot lane being the annoying Maokai. Baus is gonna find it much harder this time to do the bouncy things that we saw from him in the previous game. But hey, this whole game, we're not just lane swapping. We are being lane spicy this time because we're just going around them with all of us. And Crowny's still gonna do the bounce thing this time. Okay, thank you very much. We are not leaving the proxying alone again. Los Ratones proxy, you can put an equal sign between them and it's gonna make so much sense.
Yeah, beyond that, of course, you did see the Jace go mid, pick up the experience that we have seen that as a kind of adaptation to some of the lane swaps. That's the level 2, but it'll be a 3v1 dive. Lands the accelerated shock blast, goes into hammer form, goes to the skies. The Q goes wide, but the passive will still be there. Flag, drag. Mientech is in the dirt. Woo! Flash away from Crowny, just about surviving. The other side, Baus is gonna get some back. Oh no.
Oh, that's... Oh, he almost got all of them down. Look at those health bars on the Bulldog side. They're retrieving, but at what cost? God damn it, that was 10 HP on Crowny, by the way. He's still staying on the lane because he knows there is no immediate danger. They're going to push the wave a little bit and then recall. He's got a Dirk, and he's got Reckless. Hey, I think that's a little bit more important. He's got Reckless to his name.
That he does. This is not going to be a tank Sion by the looks of it, at least not to begin with. It's a bouncy special. Would we ever really expect anything different?
No.
Early game, a little bit mixed. Good stuff. Lost Ratones did nearly lose Crowny on that dive, but got away with it just about.
Yeah.
But it is, unfortunately, Baus clearing out the whole wave, gets a kill to his name. Feeling very happy with how that lane swap has started.
I really hope that Nemesis doesn't... Oh, no, he catches it. He catches it.
There's a flash available, can look for something more. Throw the W out there to Cayman in case the stun came his way. Went flashing on forwards, looking to get the autos and the execute. Will get it with one more! And does so. Overpowered.
That's well played by Bulldogs. Having Cayman flashing forward, like, you don't want to keep your flash if you can go for a kill confirmed onto Nemesis during the laning phase. And honestly, Mel is so annoying in that sense that you can't really dodge when she throws abilities at you because the hit bar on those things is absolutely insane. So yeah, they just catch Nemesis like that. Good catch there for Bulldogs, but Baus, you know what? I said he's not gonna proxy on the bot lane most likely. Forget I said anything. It's Baus. I gotta give him more credit. He's gonna die. Yeah, but he's gonna get this wave regardless.
Does so, but what it also means, because you've got no wave behind it, there's no real way for X-Fang to get towards any of these turret plates. Of course, nice quick pick up there from Lulas to get a kill and then back away from it. The Xin Zhao getting early gold will be really valuable here because it means you can threaten the backline when the Jarvan goes diving on in, try and crescent guard people away. You are going to be somewhat obligated alongside this Maokai to try and manage some of the dive coming your way. You can try and play full contact League of Legends. Have a look at this replay as Nemesis ends up being killed after Cayman and Kasingo for this play.
There is, unfortunately, simply no way for you to get out of it. Kasingo is right under the turret to make sure he is the one tanking it, which allows Cayman to just walk forward, throw in an auto attack, and get out of it untouched by the turret, by Nemesis, or by anybody in the whole world. Really cleanly played by Bulldogs. Gives a little bit of advantage to Cayman on this mid lane, but for now, I am surprised. Okay, I'm not surprised considering how bad Mientech has been feeling so far on the top lane. Brother has 21 CS to his name. This is unfortunate. This is tragic for Bulldog because Los Ratones are fine with their top lane dying. Sion is okay with that. Mientech is not.
How aggressively do they want to play this? The Sion's in the bush. Off to the other side. Decides to leave. Thank you very much, observers. Playing with our fears as much as X-Fangs, but wisely steps a ways back. Has gone towards the lethal tempo, so likely will be on hit. Can get towards the slightly tanky build. Nemesis has to be very careful here. The Solar Snare goes wide. Velia looking to come around the corner. Sapling slow will be there. Flash forwards to get the twisted advance. They get the kill. Velia has to flag and drag out. Nemesis 0 and 2 this game. Double kill over to Cayman. A much better start than the last one as Sion hits the level 6. Big lethality empowered decimating smash. Phase rush away. That's a good chunk there onto the Varus.
Well, just still here on the mid lane. The Grubbies have spawned with Los Ratones bolting there. Maybe they can have a play. Came in.
Turn around, comes through, and that's very deep from Velia, who's going to get Bramble smashed away. The execute's available. Will not quite find it. The Burning Eclipse will not find that kill.
And now everybody from Bulldog side has to retreat. Even Medic just looking respectfully from the top lane. Doesn't have level 6, doesn't have mana, so there is no say he has in the question of the Krabbies. Los Ratones are gonna get these ones. Again, with the bot lane, having lane swap to the top lane, it's so easy to go for this early objective on the top part. Mythic.
Passive.
Oh!
That's surely dead. Last auto. Nicely played. Kill onto Jinx.
This is the worst case scenario for Bulldog right now with the Jinx, because you don't want to see her getting excited so early in the game. Jinx is such a snowbally champion. You give her some early kills, she says, thank you very much. Now I'm gonna keep killing everything that I see in this game, getting faster to my items, getting faster to my power spike. Crowley is feeling fantastic in this game. Just gonna go for a quick reset, getting in some components, getting in a big sword. We are already talking about a very scary Jinx on the lane. And it's still Reckless who's hugging Crowley non-stop, not letting anybody get close to the Jinx.
At least this time around, Nemesis naps the big raptor.
That's much.
Gonna force it to reset, can't quite kill it. Again, at least this time around, came in a much better position, has got some assistance mid lane, has got the 2 kills, and Syndra has to be very careful with her ability usage here, because if you ult poorly, if you scatter the weak poorly, it can just be no viewed back towards you with the rebuttal. Yeah, it's on a 35-second cooldown at rank 1, but if you just save it for when Syndra tries to combo you, the Syndra can end up stunning herself, end up ulting herself, and that just isn't fun.
You don't want for that to happen. That would certainly hurt. But for now, Nemesis is just hurt a little bit in the mid lane. That's why we see so much more attention towards Crown. If you want to accelerate somebody,
everyone knows the hit.
Pick someone who is already accelerated a little bit. Are we going to play aggressively here, though? We're talking about the potential dragon, so we can just rotate there. We don't need to go for a kill secured before we do that. It's an easy dragon if we have Crown without so much DPS on that Jinx. Allows you to get the objectives very quickly.
And last game, Crowny ended up in a 200 CS at like 15 minutes. It was a ridiculous pace to be farming and took the early advantage in lane, took them to a huge amount of plates. Intake actually in a lot of danger here, gets knocked up by the decimating smash and solo killed by Baus's Sion. Bausy here to play the go to top lane, showing exactly where he got that namesake from. Lulas gonna try and maybe trade this one back as Baus and Cayman on top of Lulas might end up in a bit of a tete-a-tete. Knockup comes on through the 3 talent strike, the Solar Snare a little wide.
He doesn't care!
The Radiant Volley just gets the kill, came in on the killing spree. Still gets all the wave, still got the kill himself, is perfectly happy to trade that out.
He didn't even turn around to look at them when they went for him. That is truly something. Ooh, that goes a little bit wide. Who is there? Outside of vision. Oh, okay. I don't think any play is gonna happen though. I don't think we're going for a dive here. The super mega death rocket didn't hit anybody. So yeah, we just safely reset. Just, you know, making J's there, making sure that nothing happens except for Reckless deciding not to recall. Okay, so the situation on the top lane right now is not looking good for Bulldogs whatsoever, because this is Jace we're talking about. Jace really struggles if he's set behind so early in the game, as early as he was, unfortunately. He's still trying to farm it up. He's still trying to like go between the lanes to see which lane he can just settle in for a safer play. But for the time being, he's being set behind massively. He's gonna suffer without the first item. He's gonna suffer even versus Baus, who has been bullied early on, but now the tables have turned.
It is a 2-level discrepancy top lane. It is a 1.6k discrepancy top lane. That is not a tank Jace build I'm seeing in there either. That is, yes, the grasp, but that is double longsword. That is pickaxe. That's not even building towards something like the Black Cleaver, which we sometimes see. I'm not seeing the tier inventory for the Thimblewinter second item. That's supposed to be a damaged Jace. I don't think that is going to make this matchup any easier. Nemesis now looking to lane up against him. Scout of the week just shy. With the speed up, allows to jump on top of Nemesis with the to the skies, and Nemesis has to flash on out, even the level up. Nice play from Niantic to at least still show he's got a few teeth to him.
Milek sure has a lot of teeth, to be honest, and he does not shy from showing them to the enemy. But here, when you're 0-3-0 on Jace, it's a little bit hard to do that, so kudos for him for being able to do so. But right now, the Grubbies are spawning up very soon. Los Ratones surely would be looking towards that next objective, but with how the tables have shifted on the top side of the map for Bulldog, with Mirek finally feeling a little bit more in control of the wave, with Lulas being in advance around this speed, this should be the Grubbies for Bulldogs, unless Velja has a save.
Hell yeah. Thinking about it, throws the flag, knows what's going on. One grub secured, Smite was not used, so there's still that one up and available. How aggressively do Los Ratones want to come and contest this? I think they're not going to bother, except with a super mega death rocket that picks up one of the grubs. Objective secured.
Objective, in fact, secured. Kudos to Crowley. That was a sniper move. Ooh, here we go.
Hang on, where's Baus coming on in? As the Cataclysm's down, X-Vega survive. Nature's grasp comes on down, Baus goes down, but he's still got a zombie form with some lethality behind him. Valiant trying to flash one out to safety as came in. It gets rocked by Baus's zombie. It's the wrong game mode. This is looking like COD zombies out here. What is that, Scion?
I don't know. Baus is cosplaying a Walking Dead in this game apparently, because all he does, he dies and then gets something in return. Either some more minions or some enemy champions. Crowdy's still alive. Crowdy's still getting those turret plays thanks to Reckless, who is just there literally body blocking, kissing from getting anywhere close to Crowdy. This game is absolute cinema. This is Los Ratones game at its finest. And Bulldog, honestly, they're finding some place. They're 7-7 right now. They're going in terms of kills toe-to-toe with Los Ratones. But if you look at any other stats, it's not looking good for them. And I fear it's going to get accelerating. And Bulldogs, they don't really have the champions to play from behind. Everybody on their side wants to be accelerated from early as possible, and that didn't really happen for them here. An ultimate from Kasing to try to slow things down, and the fight is split in two. So Lulas is trying to fight everybody from Los Ratones with no success, and at the same time, Baus and Velja are fighting Kasing and Cayman and kind of winning.
I mean, don't get me wrong. This Mel, now 5-1, should be scary. Has gotten towards the Seraphs early.
Yes, absolutely.
Is way ahead of this Syndra, who doesn't really have a good matchup into that one, and Eclipse at least down from the end. The problem is that this Scion is 2.3k ahead. We've already seen what happens when Crowny gets to lead 3-0-1, up 30 CS. Already an item and a half done. The wild arrows stacking very happily in this game, and I don't know whether that's enough to realistically come back, especially when Mel, her range isn't necessarily super superb. We heard it from Jamada. Normally she wants people to come into her, and there is some value in this game, but what are you really reflecting? The rocket? Possibly valuable. The Syndra stun probably the most valuable, or maybe the full-on unleashed power, but not necessarily the easiest Mel game of all time. She's gonna have to do a lot of work here as Niantic just eats a decimating smash. Baus yells at him a bit. Goes to the skies. Doesn't really care. Flash forwards? Baus is just having it. Really wants that Jace flash traded by Niantic. Dragon secured. And really wants this turret. Might just go down to zombie form and say, that's cool, I'll die. And take the turret regardless. Rocket.
Oh, that was
really
close.
doesn't get the turret. Okay. Gets a kill.
He gets the
That's
minions.
nice.
Hey, he has his priority straight, okay? He gets the minions. That's a little bit more important for him at the time being. Hey, he is Yomu already. How often do you see a Saiyan completing Yomu?
Axiomark. He
An
just got
Axiom.
Axiomark. Oh my days. And the
Oh
kill's
my
just been
God.
completed.
And he's a 3-5.
Undefeated Swifties. Yeah. Yeah. That there is a reason why this playstyle generated so much frustration. Because the thing is, it works. And that's so galling. Came in, out of range of Scout of the Week, lands a Q of themselves, could look to speed themselves up, looks for the Solus now, can't quite find it, but Kasing will bring out the roots. The execute comes on through, misuse of the rebuttal. It is soundly denied. Judge Nemesis says no.
Oh, and Kasing is now in danger if Velja decides to go on, but Exafang is around, so they decide not to over-push it. Nemesis doesn't have the flash, doesn't have too much mana, so there is not too much you want to be risking right now on this bot. And Nemesis has gotten the range, he has gotten the kill, so he is now a little bit more stabilized. And Crowny is just not living this mid lane.
Oh,
You
man.
love to see that. He is still playing the same game as in previous game. He is getting in the money.
And look, Bulldog's supposed to have something of a poke comp. The Jace, you got the Varus going on hit, yes, the Mel. Like, you're supposed to be able to play around those 3 damage dealers. Intake does actually do a decent job, goes to the skies, looks for some autos, backs empowers it with the hypercharger. In comes Scion with the ultimate, yells cowards, and does go down the zombie. A hammer blow away will keep Baus down, even with the zombie form there. A nice play from Niantic, the rocket just wide, and Nice little moment there for the Jace that has been suffering a lot this game.
I doubt he's getting much gold from killing Baus, even if it becomes a repetitive thing there on the top lane. It's at least helping him in some form. There is still a massive gold deficit for Miata compared to Baus in terms of the gold for the top laners, but it's still something, and more importantly, it allows Bulldog to keep this top lane a little bit more balanced there. Outer turret on the top lane is still barely alive. There is like the minimal amount of health available for it, which makes the situation there a little bit dangerous. If Los Ratones decide to take a little push and destroy it, have a little bit more vision, a little bit more safety for themselves on this top part of the map. But for now, top part of the map is where Bulldog feel much more comfortable, and that's why right now we're talking about a potential herald for them.
Look, at least this time around, Bulldog are not down 6,000 gold. It's still not fantastic. The Jinx, who is a massive win condition, is very ahead. You have, however, got your Mel to 5-2, has matched well into the Syndra, unfortunately died in that 1v2 there to Nemesis, who kind of broke some ankles by just not pressing stun to the right moment. They're going to try and turn around here themselves. Finding an angle, big solar snare, Velia is dead, executed by Searing Radiance. Lulas now in danger, stun comes on through, stun afterwards, will go down, does not really stay around, but it turned around, Golden Eclipse! Make sure it's a good night. Crowny dies. Huge shutdown going the way of this Mel. Sion, though, in the picture-in-picture is on the tier 2. He's just not stopping. Someone needs to stop this man now.
Cayman will try to, but can you realistically stop this man right now? Like, even if you kill him, he will not feel stopped by that whatsoever. He'll just keep on doing the same thing. Getting the minions, getting maybe the enemies as well. What's your damage now?
Nice stopwatch. That means the Decimated faction can get that much value. Twisted advance forwards. Baus now trying to run away with a phase rush. And Lumberjack Sion. He works all day. He sleeps all night. He's about to sleep for a bit longer in the ground as Vientech comes and puts him into the dirt.
Oh my
And the
God.
multi-path reference. Wait, that zombie is so silly. Doesn't matter all that much. Third kill for Vientech. Still down 2.3k. Because this Sion is a bit ridiculous.
So Bulldogs are taking the fight a little bit early on the mid lane. They decide they can't really do anything with it in terms of the Herald that's still waiting for somebody on the map because they need to rotate game into the bot lane and their health bars a little bit too low to, try to do anything, and Los Ratones are still there. So they're like, hey, we can at least go to the bot lane, kill Baus, try to slow him down a little bit. But because of that, we don't really get much by killing Baus, and we sacrifice the Herald that is going to Los Ratones' hands right now. And Los Ratones will continue pushing it because, hey, with this bot lane completely destroyed now, with this Herald, this top lane is not gonna stand for long either.
Nemesis possibly in danger here as Kassin goes speeding forwards. In danger himself, tries to Bramble Smash, gets knocked up, the passive is there. And Nemesis picks up a third kill. Dark Seal, now it's 7 stacks. Lulas goes forward, trying to clear out the wave. Chompers don't quite arm, but the turret falls. That means Jinx is excited. Crescent Guard forced to be popped. Crowny keeps autoing. Velia gets inside the Crescent Guard, and Lulas has to flash out to safety chains of corruption. Land onto Reckless, who says, I'm just going to put up a load of trees. And runs away, courtesy of that Glacial Fissure.
Merry Christmas, everybody, but I am out and I don't think you're killing anybody on my team this time, at least. 12-11, Bulldogs have one more kill, but again, if you look at any other stats in the game, that's not looking good, especially in terms of the amount of turrets. They've managed to get 2 on the top lane and on the bot lane, but everywhere else they are bleeding, and bleeding heavily. And right now is not the time to bleed. There is a third dragon actually dying at this very moment because Los Ratones are taking it, with Bulldogs having absolutely no access to it because of what Baus did to their bot lane just a little bit earlier.
And look, Bulldogs, been more proactive, have got kills, have made plays made. It wasn't just a walkover. It felt like they were late to every play. They had Los Ratones just kind of have their way with the map. Part of that was off the fact that Syndra, who's on screen right now, didn't have lane pressure, doesn't quite have enough splinters of wrath to get the execute threshold on the ult. Came in, throws out a rebuttal, and Baus just hits him with a big axe instead. And I don't think the council member from Piltover thought this was on being a motion. Zhonya's buys some time. Goes turning into a statue, buys her a moment or two and stays alive. But my days, this Sion is just unrelenting in the side lane pressure.
Is he building LDR? Oh my god, this Sion, he already hits like a truck. And that is a time champion, by the way. This is problematic for
That's
Bulldog.
lethality. There's nothing tanky about this man. He's just got raw damage. It's ridiculous.
Hey, there is a thing as a Sion as a champion, and then there is this thing as Sion is in Baus' hands, okay? That's like 2 completely different champions.
I see the point.
Thank you. Alright, now I see something else on the map. I see the timer, and I know that Altacon has spawned on the top lane,
yeah.
and those Ratones are taking it. No vision for Bulldogs, if I see that correctly, which means they don't understand the health path. They cannot walk in, and they have a Herald on the top lane. What are you doing here?
Reckless and Baus, just bodyguard, say, you're not allowed into this club, you are not important enough. Now they got withdrawals available. Join the Bank of Vatican and get the withdrawal cards. Very, very difficult. All the while, Mientic has tried to shove onto the tier 2 and get something back with 2 items on the Jace. On for the Ghostblade second to a lethality Jace themselves. Trying to get that one out. The problem is you're now racing against a Herald that was summoned earlier. Kasing slowed down, came and gets over, but it's still a 4-grub Herald charge as in goes Velia with the Cataclysm. Came in. Turns up the rebuttal, times it a little late, has the Sarah shield come on up as Nemesis now looking to land a scatter the week. Just puts the force of will to ensure that Mel is crushed into the ground. That laning phase feels a long, long time ago. The build as well, more about the extended fights, the overtime damage. And at this point it feels like this Syndra is right back in the game. A 5th kill. Mientic flashing in to get to the skies, trying to get some withdrawals but can't do it. And lost Ratones. Every time in the mid-game, it just feels like they hit a point where they know their damage better than you do, know their ability to pressure structures better than you do. They'll claim an inhibitor, the Herald starts it, and the kills end it. Charge on in from the side to get a chunk onto the turret. Do they just want to end? I think they do. XFN trying to play this one out, gets some speed up, gets one back, but it's not going to matter as Cayman respawning. They've got withdrawals to work with. Sion gets a knock-up, will surely go down to the... Ironically, the Maokai there, Crowdy taking turret shots, and they've got a sliver of a turret remaining. And that is it. They have 1 inhibitor down. Double inhibitor turrets down, 1 Nexus turret down. Bulldog's base is tatters.
It's open. It's up there for the taking. For those Ratones, just go in and take it. There is not much to do on the map right now. We're talking about more than a minute before the next strike, and that's the first objective that's going to spawn on the map. So what are those Ratones going to do? Because Nemesis?
Gonna try and get towards this Blasco and gets knocked away. He's got enough for speed up, gets to run out to safety. No, you can't have that happen. And now Lost Returns is gonna come over and try and play. Nemesis still got the withdrawal to work with, which is kind of feeling happy. To walk over, runs into a sapling and burns down. Oh, that's hilarious. X-Fang coming on over as Reckless and Baus still trading this one out. Knocked up the Jace, who tries to get a Thundering Blow, gets a bit of a heal back and does okay. Surviving X-Fang trying to trade out as Velia leaps into the back line by putting down the Stranded and Dragon striking in. A double kill to the newer jungler, the rookiest member of Lost Ratones. So it looking like it this game, 3-2 and 11, having a Stormer.
And they're just not allowing Bulldogs to play in this game. No one is allowed to. Not even Exofang, for example, has been doing relatively okay in the first part of the game, but then finding a death after death. Even after really good ultimates he's been throwing at Lost Ratones, they're not enough to change.
Tries to get the rebuttal down. It's not bad. That means Nemesis in danger and goes down. Baus also desperately low, but there's enough of a slow onto Lulas that he can't chase any further. Still going to lose that final remaining inhibitor turret. Lulas chunked out, remember, doesn't have the Crescent Guard anymore. So Crowdy says, you're dead. You're mine, son. Steps on forward, still excited. And so very happy to meet you. Reckless says, stand behind me. The Cataclysm. So aptly named, it's the end of days. And Bulldog, their bark was definitely not as bad as their bite. They don't have anything left in the jaws. And Lost Ratones are a plague on this game. They overwhelm Bulldogs 2-0 in decisive fashion.
It only took us a little bit more than 40 minutes of total game time to decide how this series looks. It is Lost Ratones taking it as 2-0 in a very decisive fashion because Bulldogs, unfortunately, they were not standing a chance in either the first or the second game. They were trying to find the plays here and there, but unfortunately, most of the plays that we saw them finding were on Baus. And if we learned something throughout this winter split of Arozzi NLC, it's that having plays on Baus is not really having plays. It doesn't really count into anything. And Baus is really happy to take those plays onto him because his team does something on the other side of the map while it's happening to him.
Yeah, and I mean, they tried onto Nemesis, right? They put the Syndra 0-2. The Mel was really fed in it. Like 5-2 at one point was looking like a potential point in power, but it felt like the kills didn't lead to anything this series for Bulldog. They got some in the second game and got next to no turrets. Didn't get that much in the way of objectives. On the other side, Crowny and Baus got Giga ahead. Nemesis got right back into the game despite what theoretically could have been a very tricky matchup into that Mel, and they took all the structures. The Jinx got further and further and further ahead. as the game went on. But enough from us. We're not going any further ahead because the desk is taking it from here to break down that dominant series from Los Ratones.
Built different. They are just built different. They know where to attack. They know where to just... It's Los Ratones. I don't know. We heard a lot of communication by Bulldog, and they're thrown into the lower bracket. They still have another continue before they are removed. So obviously they're still going to be fighting. But versus Los Ratones, what can you do? It was a complete domination, wasn't it?
I felt like in this game it might have looked from the outside that there was more fight from Bulldog Esports. However, I thought it was very scattered and meaningless in terms of it wasn't done for any objectives. It was just Los Ratones would engage and Bulldog Esports would try to find an answer to that. But I feel like Los Ratones had an objective in mind. That's why Crowny got so far ahead. That's why Baus got so far ahead. And I don't remember the last time I saw a freaking Sion 2.8k gold up at 15. What?
Yeah. It was just a bit ridiculous. And it was Lethality Scion, his classic, right?
Axiom Arc second item, Jamada.
It's one of those games that's hard to break down, right? The lane swap really broke apart any real possibility, I feel like, of Bulldog getting even a decent mid game, which is weird because normally, in these lane swap scenarios, even when kills get traded over, it feels like unless something goes really wrong, and in this game, obviously something did go really wrong, lane swaps at the very least just kind of result in neutral trades. You have gold in one carry and then gold in another on the opposite end. Was not the case in this game, right? And a lot of that did come down to how Baus dealt with this initial dive and also how the dive was handled on the top side at the same time. Yeah, I don't know what to say. We made a lot of these calls, looking at the draft and how things could play out for Bulldog, and unfortunately, not only did they play out exactly like that, they were just executed better on the Los Ratones side.
And Sion is the best champion single-handedly when it comes to anti-dive situations. Jamada mentioned it as well. There was a dive on the other side of the map. However, Bowsy gets a kill. He gets to farm the wave, so he gets the gold from it, and he takes the flash off of the Zinzao. So summoners, death, plus everything that was underneath the tower was all scooped up. Again, a 2.5 plus gold lead for the Sion. You keep repeatedly diving in. I was going to say, Bausy, he tried his best to mimic his solo queue days, in terms of KDA. However, he got in his pocket more gold than he was anticipating. Good
death. It's a good death angle.
Good
you
death.
Gotta learn this. Yeah, good death. That was a good death. He gets the gold, he gets the kill, he gets the experience from the wave, and
he gets the solo bolo.
It's a solo bolo. He has been missing on saying that recently. I think he's putting that back on his menu of saying solo bolo. It's important. It's his brand. But yeah, with that in mind, I know the casters were saying, "Oh, he's dying a lot." Yeah, but he's achieving a lot as well. And yet again, you fall to the trap of what the Baus does best, being the Baus. Jamada, when you look outside of the perspective from the Baus, what else can we highlight from this game? Because I think it just clicked again, Los Ratones.
I mean, we already knew that realistically, Los Ratones are the strongest team in the league. It just felt like this series was a pretty clear study of they knew what their mistakes were, they knew a lot of their weaknesses were. A lot of it late in the early game, right? If there was one place we could be even remotely critical of, it was the early game. And they had two stellar early games today where they understood win conditions, they understood more or less what they needed to do to deal with the Bulldog composition both times. And I will say game one was very well drafted in terms of Bulldog locked themselves into a dive composition. Los Ratones immediately just drafted anti-dive. This time around, I think a mixture of kind of a good draft from Los Ratones, but also Bulldog putting themselves in these pigeonholes where, well, now they've got two immobile carries versus Jarvan, and then they've got a bunch of melee champions who now have to also deal with Braum and Syndra. So I think the responses were naturally very good by Los Ratones, but also Bulldog, again, I think they really hamstringed their ability to play a lot of the game outside of the execution, right, which was already a mix of lacking, but also, again, well responded by LR. So yeah, I think the big takeaway here is that clearly Los Ratones have cleaned up on some of the smaller parts of what we were concerned about for their gameplay, and now it looks even more concerning for whoever ends up going up against them, whether it be North or Verdant, right, remaining in the upper bracket.
I feel like, especially for Bulldog Esports, of course, they're not out. They're just dropping to the lower bracket, so they'll have one more best of. But I think it's very important to sort of hone down how they want to play their early game. I feel like I got kind of lost here, and especially, again, we're going back to the lane swap because it was their weak point throughout the entire playoff stage. They get lane swapped on, they get lost. It happened in seeding stage as well. You need to sort of hone down how you want to play these scenarios. And if you don't want to be in set scenarios, you need to figure out how you walk into enemy jungle war deep to try and get away from a lane swap scenario, sort of match the lanes wherever they go. I don't necessarily think that I've seen that today from Bulldog Esports. I've seen fight in them and they have that. Their best trait is their team fights and is their skirmishes. However, not a great day for Kasing. Wasn't unlocked in laning phase, wasn't able to make his plays, wasn't able to go towards that. Wasn't unlocking draft indeed. I wasn't a big fan of that market, but I was going to leave that out. I'd like to see more Kasing all over the map for Bulldog Esports because I really think it does unlock them as a team in the early game.
Yeah, we got to see him previously on that Lulu, those big Leonas team fights. I don't know, I think he was locked out as well. Again, that B1 Maokai, I don't know if it was to be a flex and maybe get someone else and he had to play the support duty of getting the Maokai. But at the end of the day, it didn't work for Bulldog. On the other hand, it did work out for the Los Ratones. Oh, it actually is ready. So hit it with the graphic before. Give me the graphic before. Yeah.
Wait,
give me the
could
graphic.
Could this potentially be an Inta view?
Oh gosh. Look at this goal difference at 14. At 14.
Brother has 8 deaths. Brother has 8 deaths and
deaths.
he's 2.6k gold up. Like, throw it to interview, Asha.
I mean,
throw it to
it's time to finally meet him. The 100% win rate pro player. Baus, the Messi of League. Pleasure to meet you. Can you hear me?
Hello. I can hear you. Hello.
How
It's
you
good to be
doing,
here. Thank you
finally?
for inviting me.
No, thank you for accepting. A long-time viewer, by the way, and I finally get to meet you on that side of the screen. Tell me something. How has it been, the journey as a pro player? Like the transformation?
Yeah, it's been amazing going from solo queue. You know, people saw me as like a solo queue demon. You know, you get the Bowser vest in your team. You're like, yes, this guy's gonna pop off 1v9. Be able to translate that skill into pro play has been really fun for me. You know, it's a bit of a different game. You know, you can't just run around dying all the time and it will work. So it's been fun though. It's been fun. I've been having a good time on this journey.
That's a good one, because it's a different League of Legends, don't you feel it? So tell me, how much have you learned going from the solo queue beast on the top side with that knowledge and translating that into pro play and learning from these players you're playing with?
Yeah, no, it's been great, right? Like, it feels like I don't know if this is me, but a lot of top laners, professional top laners, they're all a little bit the same. Like there's nothing to them. They all play the same way, so it's very easy to counter. So yeah, I've learned a thing or two, definitely, how to play like a pro player, and I've gotten a lot of coaching and gotten a lot of help from my dear friends, especially Cadrel, so shout out to him. But at the end of the day, I think maybe other top laners should learn a thing or two about me, rather than the other way around.
So you know, because I see your stream, so you keep talking about the 100% win rate pro player. Tell me something, if by the end of the split, you don't get a single L, is there anything you would like to get, like a prize or something?
Yeah, you say if I don't get a single L. I'm thinking more when, you know, like when it's gonna happen later on, right?
Yeah.
We're not gonna be losing. That's just how it is, okay? Well,
so what do you want? Like a present? What do you want?
Yeah, I just want some respect on the street, okay? I want people to know the Bowser Vez is the best professional top laner. That's all I want. I want people to know that. That's all I'm asking for.
This is a request for production on the finals. When he doesn't lose a single game, I want under his name, you know, put some respect on the Baus.
That's right.
Tell me something. Last question. When is the next guide dropping? Because we've been hearing about that for the YouTube. Where's the guide?
The next
Where's the
guide, yes.
Yeah,
Bro,
come on,
I
boss.
started working on it. On it, honestly. And then this pro play came around, and I've just been too lazy. It will come. Don't worry. In the
You're
next
gonna
half year at
100%.
least.
Okay,
Yeah,
halfway year.
I'll get to it.
Baus, thank you so much for this interview, and congratulations on all the hard work you've been pulling, and good death, by the way, good death. Good death.
Very good, Dad. Thank you for having me. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Have a lovely one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Some real answers from Baus. Like,
It's
honestly,
Baus, I'm so happy.
I really loved his take on top laners, because I actually very heavily agree, and it's something I criticize not players but usually teams. Teams just turn so many top laners into the same top laner time and time again, and Baus has already cracked that code seemingly. Yeah, a really, really lovely interview from Baus, and finally nice to hear him too.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I love how you said teams take those aggro top laners, Camille's, Jax players, whatever, and turn them into Sion players. He's ready! He is a Sion player. You don't have to turn him into a Sion. You can't control what he's gonna buy in games. If he shows up with an Axomark second item, you've been chilling. But he is a ready Sion player. There you go. Up for grabs. Cadel said there's no buyout, so go ahead, fish him up.
Lovely, and with this in mind, Los Ratones move on to be the first team on the upper bracket final that is going to be played tomorrow. So with that in mind, we need to find who's the target, who's the opponent, either Nord or Verdant. And to see that game, we'll throw it to the break before we come back with pre-match for game 1. I'll see you soon.